Chapter 1874. Jokun Spring 1. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw this scene, their hearts unconsciously started to let their imagination run wild. This scene seemed familiar, and it was easy for people to make associations. Not long after Yu-chun and Jokun hid behind a tree, they heard Jokun's painful moans coming from behind the tree. His moans were intermittent, and sometimes he was even wailing. Lung Ruoxue and the others were all speechless when they heard it. Oh, would it be what they were thinking? The young master of the Yu family doesn't seem like someone who has that kind of hobby. The few of them couldn't help but let their thoughts run wild. After a while, Yu-chin walked out from behind the tree alone. He even patted the dust off his clothes and walked to Lung Ruoxue and the others. "It's done," Yu-shu said with a faint smile, his handsome face still full of pride. Lung Ruoxue and the rest looked at him curiously, but no one spoke. "Jokun, why don't you come out and let little sister Ruoxue and the others see your new image?" He knew that Lung Ruoxue and the others were curious, so he called out to Jokun directly. However, seeing that Jokun did not respond, he could not help but say angrily, "You're a man. Why are you still so shy? They'll count to 3 and you'll get the hell out of here. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Upon hearing that, there was a flurry of activity behind the tall tree, followed by a few ping, 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 ping sounds. Then, Jokun slowly moved out from behind the tree with his back facing the crowd. Looking at Jokun's bashful appearance, Lung Ruoxue and the others were even more puzzled. What is going on? Was Jokun feeling shy? Just as Lung Ruoxue and the others were secretly guessing, Jokun had already slowly moved in front of them. However, he still chose to turn his back to everyone and the beasts. His trembling shoulders revealed his nervousness at the moment. The treasure couldn't stand his slow and coy appearance, so it directly jumped in front of him. With one look, it was shocked. "Arg, who are you?" Baby stretched out its little paw and pointed at Jokun in disbelief. Lung Ruoxue and the others were even more curious when they heard the baby's words. Can't Jokun even recognize the baby? With a strong sense of curiosity, Lung Ruoxue and the others walked straight to Jokun. It was Jokun's fault for not turning around. However, after seeing Jokun's current appearance, their reactions were similar to that of a treasure. Lung Ruoxue and the others all had their mouths half open as they stared at Jokun, who looked terrified. At that moment, his entire face was swollen like a pig's head, and his original appearance could not be seen at all. His swollen eyelids were bulging, and his eyes were squeezed into a thin line. Not only that, but his eyes were also black and green, which looked extremely disharmonious. His lips were also swollen like sausages. However, after looking at Jokun's mouth, they believed that they would not want to eat sausages for a short period of time, because Jokun's sausage mouth was really too disgusting. After looking at Jokun, Lung Ruoxue and the rest turned their attention to Yu-chin. "Brother Yu, is this person Jokun?" Jian could not help but ask. "Ha, how about the real deal? After I helped him change his appearance, you guys can't recognize him, right?" Yu-chan was very proud of himself when he said this, as if his face was saying, "Quickly praise me." These few words left Lung Ruoxue and the others speechless. "I can't recognize him, but how can he go on his way in his current state?" Jian was a little worried. If others were to see them together with Jokun in this state, they would probably be embarrassed, right? "Don't worry, I only hit his face. He's still healthy. It doesn't matter how far you go." Yu-chin promised. "Brother, yes, idea is great. I really want to know how you came up with this idea." At this moment, Ji-tao also said with a smile, He was overjoyed to see Jokun in such a state. He had allowed Jokun to flaunt his prowess in front of them all the time, and now he was getting his retribution. I only saw little sister Ruoxue's hesitation, so I suddenly thought of changing his image. This way, we could go on our journey together. Yu-chin said with a smile. If he left Jokun alone, who would he fight with when he was bored? He couldn't help but think to himself. It turned out that he was treating Jokun as a pastime. "Change your image." Upon hearing this, Cold sweat started to drip from Lung Ruoxu's forehead. Don't tell me that the young master of the Yu family doesn't know what a disguise pill is? In Lung Ruoxu's opinion, Yushu had clearly done it on purpose. She wanted to beat Zhou Kun up, but he still used her as an excuse. What kind of person was he? Lung Ruoxue complained as she looked at Yu Chun with resentment in her beautiful eyes. Seeing this, Yu Chun cleared his throat and turned his head away guiltily. Miss Lung, I'm in pain. All of a sudden, Zhou Kun opened his mouth. His voice was trembling, and his voice was a little unclear. It's okay, just bear with it. Lung Ruoxue replied perfunctorily, but she couldn't help but feel disgusted. Why did he have to tell her about the pain? She wasn't a healing pill, but Yu Chun probably wouldn't let him take any healing pills, otherwise, that guy would have worked for nothing. Yu Chun's actions also involuntarily reminded Lung Ruoxue of evildoer. In general, Yu Chun and evildoer were somewhat similar in some aspects. For example, when dealing with enemies, evildoer also liked to use this kind of method, and Yu Chun would not give up on his responsibility. However, if the demon were to find out that Zhou Kun had once challenged him, he was afraid that Zhou Kun would not end up well either. In fact, he would definitely end up in a worse state than he was now. Although she didn't know if she would encounter a demon here, she could already imagine the outcome that Zhou Kun would face. It would be his nightmare for the rest of his life. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxu's attitude towards Zhou Kun improved slightly. However, his tone was still lukewarm. Then, everyone ignored Zhou Kun's grimace and simply packed up their things before leaving. This time, they chose to walk in the opposite direction. After walking for 2 days, Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not even see a single person. After finding a flat piece of land as their temporary camp, the group decided to have a good rest. As for Zhou Kun, after 2 days of rest, the swelling on his face had subsided a lot, and his original appearance could be vaguely seen. Therefore, as soon as they stopped moving forward, Yu Chun dragged Zhou Kun to a corner again. Then, Zhou Kun's painful howls rang in their ears. However, Lung Ruoxue and the others were already used to it. After a while, Yu Chun came back first again. No one cared about Zhou Kun's outcome. Zhou Kun still did not appear even after Ji Yun and the other two had finished preparing dinner. After dinner, Zhou Kun was still nowhere to be seen. Brother Yu, did you scare Zhou Kun away? What's going on? Ji Yun asked curiously. Brother Yu is really violent. He has been torturing Zhou Kun for the past 2 days. He won't dare to run. Otherwise, he'll regret it even more. Yu Chun said confidently. Then, he brought Ji Yun and the other two to the huge tree where he had beaten Zhou Kun up. He saw Zhou Kun curled up on the ground with his head lowered, shivering. When he felt that someone had arrived, he did not dare to raise his head. Instead, he trembled even more violently. Sob, he's an uncared for and unloved, vulnerable group. Who can save him? He couldn't count on Ji Yun and the others. Chapter 1875. Zhou Kun Spring 2. Zhou Kun, what are you hiding here for? Do you know how worried we were about you? Seeing this, Ji Yun held back his laughter. It's cool here. Zhou Kun mumbled softly, still not daring to raise his head. Is it very cool here? Ji Yun raised his head and looked around. He did not feel that it was very cool here. Moreover, he did not want Zhou Kun to hide here. Therefore, after giving Ji Tao and Ji Wu a look, the three of them carried Zhou Kun and left the place. Release me. Let me go. What are you guys doing? Zhou Kun, who was forcefully dragged away, was so frightened that he hurriedly screamed loudly. Even Lung Ruoxue, who had already entered the tent, was startled and came out. What are you guys doing? After taking a look at Zhou Kun, who was struggling desperately, Lung Ruoxue turned her head and asked Ji Wu and Ji Tao, who were holding on to him. He wanted to hide behind the tree. We had no choice but to bring him here by force. Ji Tao quickly explained. Oh, Lung Ruoxue nodded in understanding. At that moment, Zhou Kun saw Lung Ruoxue and started shouting again. Miss Lung, help! They want to harm me. They're all bad people. Young Master Zhou, you must be mistaken. Why would they harm you? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Lung Ruoxu's face was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, it's only been a few days. Zhou Kun was tortured to the point of paranoia. It was quite pitiful. However, Lung Ruoxu's thoughts were rather pitiful. She did not really pity Zhou Kun. She was just sighing casually. In fact, she was not very concerned about Zhou Kun's outcome. I'm not mistaken. They really want to harm me. Woo! As he spoke, Zhou Kun even started crying. His body, which was being held tightly by Ji Wu and Ji Tao, also fell involuntarily. How can you guys bully the few with your numbers? He's really too much. Suddenly, a voice filled with justice appeared out of thin air. Furthermore, from the voice, it seemed to be a woman. Then, the woman who spoke appeared in front of Lung Ruoxue and the others. The crowd looked at the woman who had appeared out of nowhere in surprise. When did this guy come? It was unbelievable that so many of them didn't notice it. This fact made the men feel embarrassed. However, this woman's appearance and voice clearly didn't match. Her voice sounded soft and weak, but her appearance was rough. To put it bluntly, she had the appearance of a man. The woman not far away had dark skin and ordinary looks. She was rather tall and burly, even more so than Zhou Kun. The woman's strength was also that of a god king. Upon seeing this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but frown. Another god king had actually come. It seemed like there were quite a number of participants in the god king's group. However, it was also fortunate that this nosy fellow was only a divine king. Otherwise, if it was a divine emperor or the like, it would be difficult for them to deal with them. The woman appeared in front of the crowd. She first sized up the crowd before finally fixing her gaze on Zhou Kun. Are they trying to kill you? Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let them have that chance. The woman said with a strong sense of justice. In her eyes, Zhou Kun, who was covered in injuries, was a pitiful victim, while Lung Ruoxue and the others were heinous villains. She had always been the embodiment of justice and naturally bore the responsibility of protecting the weak. Therefore, she could not help but take Zhou Kun under her wing. Really? Then you must protect me. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was so touched that he burst into tears. Hearing their conversation, Lung Ruoxue chuckled and interrupted. You've misunderstood. We didn't want to kill him. You didn't want to kill him? Who would believe that? If I don't want to kill him, why would he be screaming so miserably? The woman clearly didn't believe Lung Ruoxue's words. In fact, she even scoffed at them. Beautiful women were like poisonous scorpions. In the eyes of that woman, Lung Ruoxue was like the king of poisonous scorpions. This was because she had clearly heard that pitiful fellow begging Lung Ruoxue for help. But Lung Ruoxue was unmoved. A woman's heart was truly the most poisonous. We're doing this for his own good, Jian said. His words only served to further enrage the rough-looking woman. For his own good? He'll beat you up like this and say it's for your own good, okay? The woman questioned angrily, her bronzling-sized eyes burning with flames of anger. I don't need to do this, Jian said indifferently. He was speechless at this fellow who could not tell right from wrong and thought that he was the embodiment of justice. He also did not have the patience to continue explaining. Does he really need to do this? The more the woman spoke, the angrier she got. She didn't even know why she was so angry. He does need it because he has too many enemies here. Jitao could not help but ask, his enemy? Aren't you guys the ones? The woman shouted, you're wrong. Compared to his other enemies, we're nothing. Jitao was speechless. This woman's imagination was too rich. So you're really his enemies? The woman responded quickly. Yes and no. At this moment, Ji Wu spoke. What is it and what is it not? Please speak like a human. The woman lost her patience. She was tired of listening to other people's genteel words. Could it be that I spoke the language of the beasts? Or do you not understand human language? Ji Wu said with a light smile. Of course I can understand human language, so you must be speaking the language of beasts. The woman said matter-of-factly. Ji Wu fell silent in response to her theory. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but feel helpless when she saw that Ji Yun and the other two had been defeated by the woman's endless pestering. Although she was also speechless, She felt that it was better to make things clear to this woman, in case this woman lost her sense of justice. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue took a deep breath and said, "Miss, we are indeed helping him. The reason why we're doing this is because he has too many enemies here, and every one of them can't wait to take his little life. In desperation, we can only change his appearance so that he won't be recognized. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I don't understand. No matter how many enemies he has, you don't have to beat him up like this, right? Don't you know that there's a pill called the appearance-changing pill in this world?" The woman said. Although she was a little rash, she was not stupid. The things she should know were no less than others, so no one could fool her. "This is the elite gathering. Do you really carry a disguise pill with you?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. The woman was at a loss for words. She would not bring the disguise pill for such an important competition. However, after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, she still felt that something was amiss. That's right. They were talking about how they shouldn't have beaten him up like this, not about whether they had brought the disguise pill or not. Fuck, he was almost tricked by this beautiful scorpion. This woman was too cunning. Chapter 1876. Zhou Kun Spring 3. The woman flew into a rage out of humiliation. Following that, she started arguing with Lung Ruoxue. "Even if you don't have the disguise pill, you shouldn't have beaten him up so badly, right? Look at him now. He doesn't even look like a human." He said that it's because we don't have the disguise pill and he has too many fierce enemies. We had no choice but to use this plan. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but roll her eyes. She realized that it was very tiring to talk to this woman. She was always beating around the bush. "Then it's wrong to beat people up," the woman said stubbornly. She knew that she couldn't win against this beautiful scorpion, so she had no choice but to insist that she shouldn't beat people up. "Do you want us to just watch and get killed?" Lung Ruoxue's eyes widened. Her beautiful face filled with disbelief. "Of course not. If he really has enemies coming to seek revenge, you can also help him," the woman said matter-of-factly. She had already forgotten that she had just treated Lung Ruoxue and the others as Zhou Kun's enemies. "We're only priests, and he has many enemies. Do you think we could defeat his enemies?" Lung Ruoxue continued to guide impatiently. The woman was at a loss for words. She couldn't help but think, does that guy who was beaten up so badly that you can't even see his human form really have that many enemies? Why does he have so many enemies? Unconsciously, the woman asked what she was thinking. He seduced too many women, took too many women by force, and broke up countless marriages. Do you think he has a lot of enemies? Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. Really? The woman couldn't believe it. A dark light flashed in the depths of her eyes. Lung Ruoxue nodded. The woman remained silent for a long time. Wow, you're so great, so powerful. How'd you do it? After an unknown period of time, just when Lung Ruoxue and the rest thought that the lady had figured it out, they suddenly heard a voice filled with joy. Instantly, cold sweat started to drip down from their foreheads. What was going on? Were they outdated, or the world was progressing too fast? They clearly felt that they couldn't keep up with this woman's thinking. After the woman finished speaking, she rushed to Zhou Kun excitedly and looked at him with admiration. Her extremely eager gaze made Zhou Kun's heart thump. Plop! He jumped wildly. Zhou Kun tried his best to open his swollen eyes, which were only left with a slit. He looked at the woman in front of him, who was looking at him with admiration in a daze, and he was overwhelmed with emotions. Although this woman was unremarkable and her body was stronger than his, it was rare to meet a woman who understood him so much. He was really excited. He was so excited that he didn't say a word. Seeing that Zhou Kun didn't respond to her, the woman didn't care at all. Instead, she continued to speak nonstop. You know what? I also want to seduce many men, occupy many men, break up countless lovers, and build my own harem. I want to make all the men in the world grovel at my feet and do whatever I want. What do you think of my idea? Isn't that great? Although it was a question, she didn't ask Zhou Kun for an answer. Instead, she said, but after living for almost 100 years, I have not even touched a man's hand. Will my harem, I wonder when it'll be completed. The woman's expression was extremely sad when she said this. When Lung Ruoxue and the others heard her bold words, they were all dumbfounded and speechless. They originally thought that Zhou Kun was already a rare specimen, but they did not expect that this woman who came out of nowhere was even rarer. After all, there were not many women who had such ambitions. However, they could also imagine the reason for her failure. Which man would be able to accept a woman who was stronger than him? More importantly, this woman's way of thinking was very different from others. She also thought that she was the representative of justice. In their eyes, this kind of woman was clearly a sign of mental disorder. It was estimated that any man who was slightly normal would not be interested in her. However, the woman seemed to have found her savior. Seeing that she was staring at Zhou Kun so fervently, they even suspected that she would eat Zhou Kun up in her excitement. Oh, if there was really such a possibility, they would give Zhou Kun their blessings. Ji Yun and the others mused. Please teach me how to seduce men. While Lung Ruoxue and the rest were having wild thoughts, the woman lifted Zhou Kun up excitedly and shook his weak body continuously. Zhou Kun, who was dizzy from the shaking, felt nauseated and hurriedly stopped her. Don't shake me, I'm going to vomit. Arg, are you going to vomit? Then what should we do? As soon as the woman heard that Zhou Kun was about to vomit, she immediately became anxious and used her eyes to look around for an object that could contain his vomit. However, she found nothing. In the end, the woman tore off most of her lapels and raised them in front of Zhou Kun. Come, stop vomiting here. Don't vomit anywhere else. Otherwise, the Divine Master's estate will punish you. The woman was very clear about this. Looking at the woman's exposed black, strong, and thick waist, Zhou Kun forcibly suppressed the feeling of wanting to vomit. He couldn't help but wipe the sweat on his forehead and said, I'm fine. Put me down. Are you sure you're really fine? You look so pale. The woman said with a worried look on her face. When Ji Yun and the others heard her words, they could not help but start panting. How could Zhou Kun's face be pale? His face was clearly still swollen, with bruises and red patches. She could even tell that he was pale. So what was with her eyes? Could it be that her eyesight was so amazing that she could see the essence of Zhou Kun's pig-like face? I'm really fine. Zhou Kun sobbed a little and said, Boo, I'm a man. Now, he was being held up high by a woman. If this were to spread, how could he survive in the divine realm in the future? At this time, he had completely forgotten that the representatives of the various families outside could see the situation in the special space. Therefore, they had long since seen through his ugly state. Oh, the woman responded, then turned to Ji Yun. Pretty boy, go and give me a cushion. When Ji Yun and the others heard this, they looked at each other. No one moved because they didn't think that the pretty boy this woman was talking about was them. Seeing that Ji Yun didn't move, the woman was enraged. That pretty boy in black. What if he didn't hear what I said? The woman repeated. Her face was like a volcano erupting, spitting out huge flames of anger. The one in black. Only Ji Yun was dressed in black. Now, I didn't have to guess. You're calling me a pretty boy? Ji Yun looked at the burly woman in disbelief. This fellow's eyesight really wasn't that good. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Hurry up and give me a cushion. It has to be soft, the woman said. Why should I go? I'm not your servant. Ji Yun was somewhat displeased. In his entire life, not even his family's ancestors had ordered him to do this. What right did an outsider have? Moreover, even if they wanted to order him around, he had to be willing. Otherwise, there was no need to talk. They'll let you do what you want. Are you going or not? If you don't go, they'll beat you up. The woman clenched her fist and threatened. I'm not going, Ji Yun said with certainty. Then he ran to Lung Ruoxue's side and said with an aggrieved expression, Ruoxue, this woman is actually threatening me. Lung Ruoxue helplessly gave Ji Yun a consoling look. Then she looked at the woman curiously and asked, What do you need a cushion for? Of course I'm lying down for my idol. Can't you see that he's so badly injured? The woman said it very righteously, while Lung Ruoxue and the others were at a loss whether to laugh or cry. How is Zhou Kun seriously injured? They were just some superficial wounds. Did she have to be so nervous? Don't talk nonsense. Quickly go and find me a cushion. The woman continued. No, I didn't tea. Where can I find a cushion here? Lung Rawashu couldn't help but roll her eyes at the woman's wild imagination. Then what do we do? The woman was a little depressed. She didn't want her idol to lie on the cold ground. The woman hesitated for a long time before an idea suddenly came to her. She sat down on the ground and pulled Zhou Kuan into her arms. The force was so great that Zhou Kuan was almost strangled to death. Cough, cough. Zhou Kun's face turned purple, and he could not help but cough. Arg, an idol. What's wrong? What do you feel uncomfortable? When the woman heard the coughing, she immediately panicked. His name is Zhou Kuan. At this moment, Yu Chun could not help but tell the woman Zhou Kun's name. Oh, thanks a lot. Although the woman was a little out of line in certain aspects, she was still very polite. After thanking him, she patted Zhou Kun's back gently with her huge palm leaf fan-like palm to help him breathe. She kept calling out in a low voice, Little Kunkin, don't scare me. Chapter 1877, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation 1. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kuan could not even catch his breath. His eyes rolled back and he fainted completely. Upon seeing that, the woman became even more panicked. Little Kunkin, wake up. What's wrong with you? Well, the woman cried out loud and couldn't help but wipe her snot and tears on Zhou Kun's clothes. When Ji Yun and the others saw this, they were even more dumbstruck. This was truly a forthright and unbothered woman. Seeing the woman's performance, for a moment, no one dared to speak. The atmosphere also became oppressive. Suddenly, the entire camp echoed with the woman's cries, which were more unpleasant than the howls of wolves. Zhou Kuan did not know how long the woman had been crying, but her cries gradually became softer and softer until they disappeared. However, Zhou Kuan was still unconscious. Little Kuan is still unconscious. Help me think of a way to wake him up. At this moment, the woman thought of Ji Yun and the others and spoke in a half-commanding tone. Still in a coma? Was it that serious? He had only been unconscious for a while. The woman's words made Ji Yun and the others feel even more exaggerated. Moreover, in their hearts, they deeply felt that the reason why Zhou Kuan had fainted was because of this woman. It could also be said that he had fainted because he was frightened by her. In that case, should they help wake Zhou Kuan up? Ji Yun and the others looked at each other when they saw the strong woman's nervous face. Then, they all revealed a knowing smile and made a decision in unison. AI, this woman looked quite pitiful, so he had to help her. Ji Tao, Ji Wu, and Yu Chun gave Ji Yun an encouraging look, and Ji Yun spoke on their behalf. It's not difficult to wake him up, it just depends on whether you're willing to do it. Ji Yun said hesitantly, pretending to be deep in thought. You have a way? Then hurry up and tell me. The woman could tell the meaning behind Ji Yun's words and immediately asked anxiously. As for the true meaning behind Ji Yun's words, she completely ignored it. I just said that it's not difficult to wake him up. I just don't know if you're willing to do it. Ji Yun couldn't help but repeat himself. He truly doubted if this woman understood his words. Understand. Tell me the method. The woman urged. It's good that you understand. Ji Yun was relieved. Then, he said, the reason why your little Kuan fainted was because he was too anxious. If you want to wake him up, the only way is to dispel the foul qi in his chest. Only then will he really wake up. Ji Yun's expression was extremely serious when he said that, and Ji Wu and the others almost believed him. However, it was indeed a good idea, but Zhou Kuan would be the one suffering again. Then what should I do? The woman didn't quite understand what he meant. What did he mean by dispersing the foul air that had accumulated in little Kunkin's chest? How do we break them up? Hit him. Beat him up ruthlessly until he wakes up. Ji Yun saw that the woman didn't understand what he was saying, so he explained it in a more common way. Didn't you just beat him up? Why didn't you say so earlier? What's the point of all that nonsense? When a woman heard that the true method was so simple, she began to blame Ji Yun with some dissatisfaction. Ji Yun was furious when he heard that. However, seeing that Zhou Kun was about to be abused, he decided not to argue with this rude woman. Otherwise, it would lower his class. Although he said that he's going to beat someone up, he still needs to have some skills. Otherwise, if he's just beating him up, he might get even more injured. At this time, Yu Chun couldn't help but remind him, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. Then tell me, how should I beat him to wake him up? The woman asked without shame. When you hit someone, you should hit the meaty parts of his body, such as his butt. However, your little Kun's chest is blocked, so you only need to hit 3 places on his body. Yu Chun said with a smile. Which 3 places? When the woman heard this, she perked up and listened even more seriously. 1 is his face, 1 is his chest, and the other is naturally his butt. Hit each of these 3 places 100 times, and I promise he'll wake up alive and kicking. Yu Chun promised. After listening to his words, Ji Yun and the other 2 deeply felt that they were too kind. Look, the truly ruthless person was here. Even if he were to hit only 1 spot, he would probably wake up after being hit 100 times, let alone 100 times in each of the 3 spots. Really? What if he doesn't wake up? The woman was still a little worried. It could also be said that she was too nervous about Zhou Kun. If he doesn't wake up, you can continue to hit him. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a faint smile, but she couldn't help but mourn for Zhou Kun for 3 seconds in her heart. Poor fellow, it's really a bad time for him to faint. Great, he's going to be beaten awake again. Looking at the woman's iron palm, she wondered if Zhou Kun would be able to withstand it if she were to hit him hundreds of times. However, Lung Ruoxue's worries were clearly unnecessary. That was because the woman had already started fighting. She raised both her palms and attacked Zhou Kun's face, which was already swollen like a pig's head. Papa! In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks had already been launched. Not only was the woman strong, but she was also fast. Hence, before Lung Ruoxue and the others could react, Zhou Kun had already finished hitting his face 100 times. Then, the woman launched an attack on Zhou Kun's chest. Sila! With a loud sound, Zhou Kun's tattered clothes were torn apart. Then, Papa! The voice sounded again. Zhou Kun still showed no signs of waking up even after she had hit him 100 times on his chest. The woman immediately became anxious and hurriedly pulled down Zhou Kun's pants before continuing to smack him on his buttocks. In fact, how could Zhou Kun not wake up after being hit so many times? However, the speed at which the woman hit him was too fast. Hence, after Zhou Kun woke up from the pain, he was knocked unconscious by the woman before he could even speak. This cycle repeated itself, and it was not easy for Zhou Kun to really wake up. Lung Ruoxue and the rest were in awe of the latter's smooth and fluid movements. This was a real husband among women, more manly than men. Just as Lung Ruoxue and the others were sighing, Zhou Kun's buttocks were soon smacked 100 times. However, apart from being more seriously injured, he seemed to have stopped breathing, and his breathing became extremely weak. Seeing this, the woman began to cry again. Her cry gave Lung Ruoxue and the others a headache. This fellow was definitely comparable to Meng Jiang's aura of crying the Great Wall down. They wondered if she would flood this special space. If that were to happen, they didn't know if they would be implicated as well. Don't cry. After receiving the looks from Yu Chun and the others, Lung Ruoxue helplessly advised, Sigh. Those cunning guys had actually given her the heavy responsibility of coaxing this woman. To be honest, she felt that she was completely incompetent because this woman didn't seem to like her very much. Chapter 1878, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation 2. They'll cry my own tears, you don't have to care. The woman cried as she wiped her tears and snot. The transparent silk thread was pulled out by a long length. Instantly, Lung Ruoxue and the rest felt nauseated. Is this still a woman? No wonder no man had taken a fancy to her until now. Ji Yun and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. When Lung Ruoxue heard the latter's words, she sighed helplessly and said, You can't solve the problem even if you keep crying. Why don't you try mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? What's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? What's that? The woman asked in confusion. She had never heard of this term before. Oh, it's a first aid method. It's very simple. You just need to transfer air to your mouth. Lung Ruoxue explained simply. What? Mouth to mouth? How could this be? I'm not married yet. No, this was absolutely not allowed. I want to give my first kiss to my beloved. As the woman spoke, she became shy. However, with her flat face, this shyness seemed a little terrifying. You still want to get married? Hearing this, Ji-yun asked in surprise. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, kept her mouth shut. She couldn't communicate well with that woman, so she had better leave it to Ji-yun. Of course I'm going to get married. Don't all women have to get married? The woman didn't quite understand Ji-yun's words and asked in confusion. Women should indeed marry, but you're not an ordinary woman. You're a great woman who's going to build a harem in the future. How can you be like an ordinary woman who's only satisfied with marrying the man you love? I feel that it's not worth it for you. No, you can't let yourself suffer like this. Ji-yun's face was filled with righteous indignation. That's true, but no man likes me. I haven't even held a man's hand before. The woman said with a bitter expression. Men don't like you because they don't have good taste. Besides, you're the head of the family, so it's enough as long as you like them. All your men have to listen to you. If anyone doesn't listen, you'll punish them with the family law. In that case, they won't dare to resist. Ji-yun suggested. His idea made Lung Ruoxue and the others feel embarrassed. This Ji-yun clearly only wished for the world to be in chaos. What you said seems to make sense. Then what should I do? The woman asked in a silly manner. Her gaze towards Ji-yun had also become much gentler. Do you like him? Ji-yun pointed at Zhou Kun, who was in the woman's arms, and asked, pretending to be curious. Of course I do. He's my idol. I still want him to teach me how to chase a man. The woman said with a look of yearning. At the same time, she appeared to be in a state of confusion, as if her soul had left the world. Then you have to let him stay by your side. Let me tell you the truth. This guy's means of chasing women are unparalleled in the world. As long as it's a woman, there's no woman that he can't hook up with. If he is by your side to help you plan, then the day of your harem is not far away. Ji-yun said with a serious expression. Really? Then what should I do to keep him by my side? The woman didn't know what to do, so she continued to ask Ji-yun. That's easy. As long as he becomes one of your people, it will be fine. Let's start with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. This is the best start. You have to work hard. Ji-yun clenched his fists and encouraged him. But I'm a little scared. The woman lowered her head in embarrassment. What are you afraid of? Be brave. Bring out the courage you had when you first met us. Close your eyes and kiss us ruthlessly, said Ji-yun, somewhat exasperated at his failure to live up to his expectations. Then what if he doesn't admit to what he did after I kissed him? The woman was still worried. After all, this was the first time she had intimate contact with a strange man. He dares to go back on his word? We have so many witnesses to testify for you. You're doing this to save him. So if he dares to not admit to his debt, well, announce to the world that he'll become a heartless man and an ungrateful villain that everyone in the divine world will shout at. At that time, let's see what he can do. Ji-yun said through gritted teeth. In truth, he really did think so. At the thought of Zhou Kun waking up and finding out that he felt extremely elated. Will this work? After the woman heard Ji-yun's words, she hesitated. I think it's feasible. Receiving Ji-yun's gaze, Yucha nodded and said, MMH, this plan will definitely work. Ji-woo and Ji-tao said, while trying their best to hold back their laughter. They could already foresee Zhou Kun's tragic days in the future. Then you have to be my witness. I've made a huge sacrifice to save him. The woman warned before she bit him. Don't worry, we're all on your side. Ji-yun and the others promised in unison. After getting the assurance of Ji-yun and the others, the woman closed her eyes and bit Zhou Kun's sausage-like mouth in one go. He did not know how long had passed, but the woman had yet to finish eating. However, Zhou Kun slowly woke up. In fact, he was completely awakened by suffocation. At first, he was just so angry that he fainted, but his breathing was not affected. However, for some reason, he suddenly felt that he was going to suffocate to death. so he naturally woke up. However, the moment he woke up and saw a flat face in front of him, he almost jumped up in shock because the face was too close to him. However, at this time, his numb and swollen lips did not make him feel that he was being nibbled by someone. It was just that the distance between them was a little unbearable, and his heart was even more uneasy. Fuck, why is this woman so heavy? I can't push her away no matter how hard I try. She was even on top of him. What? Was she on top of him? Zhou Kun was a little slow to react, but the weight on his body reminded him that the ugly woman was indeed on top of him. This fact gave him an inexplicable strength out of thin air. He wanted to push his palms hard, but he pressed them against two elastic giant peaks. He was stunned at once, and the woman, who was gnawing at them, also felt the movement of the person below her. She quickly raised her head and looked at Zhou Kun with a surprised look, exclaiming, "Little Kun, you're really awake. That's great. It seems that mouth-to-mouth resuscitation is really useful." The woman cried tears of joy and was so happy that she was incoherent. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was stunned again and forgot to withdraw his hands for a moment. He said with a confused look, "What mouth-to-mouth resuscitation?" It's mouth-to-mouth." The woman explained shyly. She had already felt the pair of hands on her giant peak. However, she had long regarded Zhou Kun as her man, so she did not get angry. Chapter 1879, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation 3. Mouth-to-Mouth. Zhou Kun was shocked. Fuck. No wonder he felt that his breathing was not smooth. It turned out that he had been kissed by someone. No, he was kissed by Sao. This hateful guy, he had always been the one taking advantage of others. He didn't expect that he would be taken advantage of by Sao today. How? How could he accept this fact? His heart was filled with grief and sorrow. He looked at Ji Yun and the others with eyes filled with flames of anger. As for Lung Ruoxue, his eyes were filled with grievance. Unfortunately, no matter how he reacted, Lung Ruoxue and the others ignored him. Seeing that Zhou Kun had woken up, Lung Ruoxue smiled and said to the woman, "Now you don't have to worry, right?" Yes. Thank you for helping me." The latter's gratitude was genuine, and she found Lung Ruoxue a much more pleasing to the eye now. It's nothing. Since your little Kun has woken up, they'll leave him to you. You have to treat him well. It's getting late. We should go back and rest." After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she did not wait for the woman's reaction and brought baby, Mei, and Mo into her tent. After stirring things up for so long, this matter had finally come to a satisfactory end. She was very satisfied with this result. Not long after she returned to her tent, Ji Yun and the others also gave the woman some instructions before returning to their own residences. After Lung Ruoxue and the rest went to rest, Zhou Kun and the woman were the only ones left in the large open space, except for the burning bonfire. They were staring at each other. "Let me go." After a long while, Zhou Kun, who felt uncomfortable, struggled and thought, "This ugly woman is so strong." He had used all his strength, but he couldn't push her away. This fact made him quite depressed. He was a man. "You're injured. Be good and lie down. They'll take good care of you in the future." The woman patiently coaxed. Clearly, she took Ji Yun's words seriously. "I don't need you to take care of me." Zhou Kun was furious. Fuck, what did this woman mean? Could it be that she would have to stay by his side in the future? No way. Only an absolute beauty could be by his side. This woman was not qualified. "Little Kun, that's not up to you. I've already decided to have you in my harem. You're the first man I've taken a fancy to, and you'll be the boss of all men in the future. Are you happy?" The woman said with a smile. With this smile, all the flesh on her face was squeezed together, making her look even uglier. In fact, the reason why she had made up her mind so quickly had a lot to do with the encouragement from Ji Yun and the others. More importantly, her mother had said that she should make a move when it was time to. If she hesitated, she would only lose the opportunity. Therefore, after making her decision, she had already regarded Zhou Kun as her man. As for whether Zhou Kun was willing to do so, it was not within her consideration. After all, she was a god king. Could it be that he was not worthy of a god-tier master? With that in mind, Zhou Kun's future was decided. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fuck. Still happy? Could he be happy? He had always regarded women as playthings, but he didn't expect that he would be played by an ugly monster. How could he accept this? No, he couldn't just sit and wait for death. Moreover, he could not let this ugly woman keep him as her exclusive property. Otherwise, he would rather die than live. One should know that he felt like vomiting just by looking at this ugly woman. If he really became her man, he would die young. Unfortunately, things would not go as he wished. Just as he was thinking of a solution, he suddenly felt a cold sensation on his wrist. Seeing this, he couldn't help but lower his head and suddenly saw a golden chain on his wrist. Fuck, what was this? What was the meaning of this? Did they think he was a dog? Hee. Little Kunkin, this is the token of our love, the love chain. With this, we will never be apart. The woman smiled in a very wretched manner and showed Zhou Kun the chain. The chain seemed to be only about a meter in length, and one end was tied to Zhou Kun's wrist, while the other end was tied to the woman's wrist. Zhou Kun felt like killing himself. Was he really going to tie him up like a dog? Zhou Kun's face turned livid with anger, and his chest heaved up and down continuously. Damn it, where did this woman come from? She was such a bully. Seeing that Zhou Kun was excited again, the woman was so nervous that she did not know what to do. Little Kunkin, what's wrong? Were you feeling uncomfortable? The woman said worriedly. After saying that, she nibbled on the 2 sausages on Zhou Kun's face. It was the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation that had saved little Kunkin just now. Hence, she was sure that the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was effective. As for Zhou Kun, he was pressed down by the sudden gravity and almost lost his breath and fainted again. However, he did not faint this time. Zhou Kun felt nauseated after being licked and gnawed by the woman without any skills. Moreover, the woman was using too much force and kept blowing into his mouth, causing him to feel a little pain. Hence, he was furious. He decided to teach this woman a good lesson on what kissing was. Unfortunately, he had forgotten that the patient was performing artificial respiration. In a fit of anger, Zhou Kun lost his rationality and pressed down on the woman's head, after which he turned the tables on her and kissed her ruthlessly. In an instant, they were filled with passion, and the flames were burning between the two of them. The woman, who was dizzy from Zhou Kun's kiss, was so excited that she grabbed Zhou Kun's tattered clothes tightly, only to hear a sigh la. With a loud sound, Zhou Kun's clothes were torn into pieces, and his body was exposed again. However, at this moment, the two of them had not realized this. The two of them were kissing and biting each other fiercely, as if they were competing. In the tent, Baby was walking back and forth a little impatiently. From time to time, it would stick its little head out to take a look. When it saw the two of them burning with passion and unable to control themselves, its beautiful purple eyes flashed with a thought-provoking light. Then it stretched out its furry little paws. Following that, Lung Ruoxue picked up the small and exquisite baby. "You little rascal, what are you up to again?" Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. "Hee, I just want to help that woman." Baby laughed evilly, not feeling guilty at all for being caught. "She doesn't need your help. She can handle Zhou Kun," Lung Ruoxue said in understanding. That woman was no ordinary person. She was definitely Zhou Kun's nemesis. All right then. Baby was a little disappointed. Since its cute master had said so, it shouldn't be a busybody. Be good. Go back to your space and sleep. Lung Ruoxue caressed her precious little head. With a thought, she brought them into the medium. The next day, when Lung Ruoxue came out of the tent with Baby, Mei, and Mo, the three little foxes, she was surprised to see Ji Yun and the rest who looked haggard. Ugh, what was going on? It had only been one night. How could they be so down and out? What's wrong with you guys? Are you under attack? Lung Ruoxue teased. It's good if we really encounter an enemy attack. AI, it was even worse than that. We didn't rest well yesterday. Look, I have dark circles under my eyes. Ji Yun exaggeratedly said, with an aggrieved expression. What's wrong? Lung Ruoxue saw that Ji Yun was exaggerating and helplessly smiled. She had never heard of Shun having dark circles the next day if he didn't sleep at night. Little sister Ruoxue, didn't you hear anything last night? Seeing Lung Ruoxue's face full of question marks, Yuchen couldn't help but ask. I didn't. Lung Ruoxue was very honest. She would not really be sleeping in the tent at night, so how could she have heard any movements? Furthermore, if anything had happened, Qing Ju would have warned her. However, Qing Ju did not say anything last night, which naturally meant that everything had been fine the entire night. Hence, she really could not guess what they had encountered. You're probably sleeping too deeply, Yu Chan said with a face full of envy. Then can you send a representative to tell me what happened last night? Seeing that no one had explained the reason to her, even after a long time, Lung Ruoxue's curiosity was piqued. Since you didn't hear it, then it's better not to know, Ji Yun hurriedly said. What's the reason? Lung Ruoxue was a little unhappy. What did he mean by better not to know? Didn't they know that their mysterious behavior had already aroused her curiosity? We don't know what to say. It's a little hard to say. Yu Chun chimed in. Actually, he had taken into consideration that Lung Ruoxue was a girl. Hence, subconsciously, he treated Lung Ruoxue as a child. Naturally, it was not good for her to know about this. Hard to say. Could it be that something that shouldn't have happened between you two? Lung Ruoxue deliberately laughed evilly. Why is it us? It's obviously Zhou Kuan. When Ji Tao heard this, he was so frightened that he quickly clarified himself to avoid any misunderstandings with Lung Ruoxue. However, this way, Lung Ruoxue would naturally know who the person involved was. Since it's Zhou Kuan, why are you so embarrassed to say it? Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless. Following that, she could not help but ask, what's Zhou Kuan up to again? Can't that guy just stop? He's been taken advantage of. Last night, he even fainted a few times. Ji Yun's cheeks reddened as he spoke in an embarrassed manner. Of course, this was only a guess based on the woman's scream, but it was still close to the truth. Who did you say fainted? You are the one who fainted. Without giving Lung Ruoxue a chance to express her thoughts, a furious roar suddenly sounded out of thin air. However, there was a slight tremble in the rage. The person who roared was Zhou Kuan, who had just stepped out of the tent. Chapter 1880. The Consequences of the Scheme. 1. When Zhou Kuan heard Ji Yun's words, he was furious and was about to rush over to reason with him. However, he had just taken 2 steps forward when he staggered and fell to the ground with a thud. Behind him, a woman's exclamation was heard. Aya, my little Kuan Kuan, how could you be so careless? Didn't I tell you not to walk so fast because you're so weak? Upon hearing that voice, Ji Yun and the others laughed secretly in their hearts. When they saw Zhou Kun's extremely embarrassed appearance, they laughed even more happily in their hearts. He did not expect Zhou Kun to have such a day. Weak my ass. Am very healthy. Although his body was a little weak, that was not the only reason why he had fallen. The main culprit that had caused him to fall was the chain on his hand. It was all because of that damn dog chain that he had made a fool of himself in front of everyone. Buxu? Then let's continue. I haven't had enough fun yet, the woman said in a carefree manner. Her words immediately frightened Zhou Kun, who was already pale and weak, and his face turned even uglier. Fuck. Still not satisfied? I'm almost squeezed dry. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun couldn't help but feel indignant in his heart. When he saw Ji Yun and the others sneering at him with their heads lowered from the corner of his eye, the anger in his heart burst out. They bullied me. If you teach them a lesson, they'll let you continue. Zhou Kun suddenly pointed at Ji Yun and the others and said, Humph. He was going all out. Although he couldn't defeat Ji Yun and the others, he had his own helpers. We're bullying you? When have we ever bullied you? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Ji Yun and the others were speechless. Isn't Zhou Kun too good at using others' power? They had just found a backer, and now they wanted to give him a show of force? Oomph, what a vile person. You guys were talking bad about me just now. I heard everything. Zhou Kun roared angrily, his face flushed red, and his listless eyes were rapidly filled with blood. Fuck! This time, he had been thrown to his grandmother's house. He was extremely sad and angry. Sob, he had been raped by that ugly woman. This matter had already caused him to feel aggrieved. However, he had now been treated as a joke by Ji-Yun and the others. Not only that, the entire divine realm was probably aware of this matter. How would he be able to survive among the women in the future? As the saying goes, a single misstep would result in eternal hatred. He especially hated himself now. Why did he teach that ugly woman to kiss for no reason? In the end, he had harmed himself. Thinking about it now, he felt disgusted. Moreover, that ugly woman had warned him to drive away all the women around him, not leaving a single one behind. Otherwise, she would kill those women. This was definitely a threat. In reality, the current him really didn't care about those women by his side. The person he cared about the most right now was Lung Ruoxue, the woman whom he had yet to get his hands on. It was a pity that with this ugly tigress by his side, he was afraid that he wouldn't have the chance to be together with Miss Lung in the future. No way. This was absolutely not allowed. He had to work hard to fight for it. Otherwise, he would not give up. After thinking about this, he, who was originally depressed, looked at Lung Ruoxue with a determined gaze. However, his body was too weak now, and the tigress beside him was too fierce. Hence, he had to be extremely careful. He must not let that ugly woman see through his thoughts. Zhou Kun, who had made up his mind, retracted his gaze and looked at the woman beside him fawningly. He then said affectionately, "Bao Bao, you have to help me." The woman's body immediately turned limp and soft when she heard the word leopard. She pulled Zhou Kun into her arms and patted his back with her large palm leaf fan-like palm. She said heroically, "Little Kun, don't worry. You're already mine, so your business is naturally my business. I, Meng Bao, will never let anyone bully you." After he finished speaking, Meng Bao glared at Ji-Yun and the others. Leopard? Meng Bao. Ji-Yun and the others ignored the woman's furious eyes. Their minds were filled with the love term and name they had just heard. This woman was called Meng Bao. Ji-Yun and the others sized her up in disbelief. From the looks of it, her parents didn't even treat her as a girl. Why else would he give his daughter such a masculine name? Although this woman didn't look like a woman at all, her name was too. "Who is Meng Liang to you?" Suddenly, Yu Qin asked. Hearing this name, he thought of a family he knew, because the names of the descendants of that family were all named after animals. "My big brother. Do you know him?" Although Meng Bao was a little stunned by Chen's question, she still answered truthfully, considering that she had been well-educated. "Yes, I'm friends with your big brother," Yushu said as he sized up Meng Bao thoughtfully. He did not expect that this person was actually Meng Liang's younger sister. However, if his memory was not wrong, Meng Liang had told him more than once that his younger sister was a rare and peerless beauty. She had a face that could captivate fish and wild geese, and a beauty that could outshine the moon and flowers. Not only that, Meng Liang would sometimes joke about letting him be the Meng family's son-in-law. Looking at Meng Bao, Yushu secretly shivered. Although he was not a person who judged people by their appearance, he could not afford to have such a wife. "Since you're my big brother's friends, he'll let you off for bullying little Kun. If there's a next time, he'll beat you up regardless of whether you're my big brother's friends or not." After listening to Yu Chen's words, Meng Bao said magnanimously. When Ji-Yun and the others heard this, they secretly pouted. They did not bully Zhou Kun, okay? They didn't need the leopard to show any mercy. With this, they felt like they owed the leopard a favor. It was an uncomfortable feeling. "Miss Meng, I think you've misunderstood. No one is bullying your little Kun." At this moment, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Upon hearing Lung Ruoxue's voice, Meng Bao suddenly remembered that there was a woman here. "Little Kunkin is already one of my men," he warned angrily. "So, you have to stay away from him. Don't come within 3 meters of him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Meng Bao's words caused Lung Ruoxue to be stunned. Immediately, her smile bloomed like 100 flowers, dazzling everyone's eyes. Following that, she sincerely guaranteed, "Don't worry, Miss Meng. I want to get within 3 meters of him, and I want to fight with you for him. I already have a fiancé." This is more like it. Meng Bao was very satisfied with Lung Ruoxu's tactfulness. However, Zhou Kun was not. Humph. That ugly freak actually dared to threaten Miss Lung. It was really preposterous. However, he was in a disadvantageous position now, so he could only sulk in his heart and did not dare to object. Thus, in order to vent his anger, he once again set his sights on Ji Yun and the others. "Bao Bao, how can you let them go so easily? You said you would teach them a lesson for me. How could you lie to me?" Zhou Kun said with tears in his aggrieved eyes. Chapter 1881. The Consequences of the Scheme 2. As soon as Meng Bao saw Zhou Kun's expression, he immediately felt his heart ache and quickly coaxed him. "Little Kun, don't cry. They're my big brother's friends, so we'll let them go this time. If there's a next time and they dare to bully you again, I definitely won't give big brother any face. Please understand. You said it yourself." Zhou Kun blinked his thunderous eyes a few times and confirmed. However, he couldn't help but think to himself, wasn't it easy for the other party to find trouble with him? As long as he provoked them with a few words, he could label them as bullying him. He couldn't help but think to himself proudly, we, the Meng family, have always been a man of our words. Don't worry, I would lie to anyone but you." Meng Bao said very seriously. "That's good. Bao, I'm tired. I'm going back to the tent to sleep for a while." After Zhou Kun finished speaking, he glanced at Lung Ruoxue affectionately from the corner of his eyes. He then turned around and walked into the tent without looking back, followed by Meng Bao. After a short while, a special sound rang out in the tent, as well as Zhou Kun's plea for mercy. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue and the rest could not help but look at each other. Why did these two people not take a look at where they were when they were doing such things? Besides, didn't he go through a whole night of trouble yesterday? Why did you come in the morning? AI. He had great physical strength, and she wondered if Zhou Kun could withstand it. The few of them thought to themselves. Then, they finished their breakfast and sat together to discuss something. "Brother Yu, before I entered this place, I heard that the battle here would be very intense, but now that I've been here for more than half a month, I haven't met many people in total. How can I compete like this? What if I don't win a single match here? How will I be ranked?" Lung Ruoxue was filled with question marks. The actual situation here was different from what her godfather had described. Hence, she had been harboring these questions in her heart for a long time. "Ha! Little sister Ruoxue, why are you so anxious? We'll have to stay here for a month. Basically, during this month, only the last few days are when the battles are the most intense. Before that, everyone will think of ways to avoid meeting too many opponents and ensure that they can get a good ranking in the final stage. This is also a good way to preserve their strength." After hearing Lung Ruoxue's question, Yu Chun patiently explained. "Ruoxue, didn't I tell you? As long as we find a place to hide, we might not even need to fight to get a place." Ji Yin pouted and said unhappily. This was because Ruoxue did not ask him this question. It can't be that everyone is hiding, right? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. It's not impossible." Ji Yin laughed smugly. Even if they aren't hiding, I'm afraid that many of the participants are looking for a place to recuperate. They want to take the initiative to attack now. After all, it's not the right time yet. Otherwise, it will affect the later matches." Yuchen also said, "In that case, even if we search the entire place, we won't be able to find many opponents." Lung Ruoxue asked, feeling a little depressed. "You can't say that. There are still people who like to fight. However, this place is not small, so it's not easy to meet an opponent. I've been here for so many days, and besides Lu's son, I've only met you guys." Yushu said with a faint smile. "Let's continue our journey in a while." Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before suggesting. She didn't want to stay in the same place all the time, as it would be too passive. Moreover, the barrier between the groups no longer existed. She also wanted to see if she could find the demon, Lu Tao, Feng De, and the others. Yes, but what about Zhou Kun and Meng Bao? Do you want to travel with them? Yuchen couldn't help but ask. In fact, it would be good if he could have a temporary ally here. Unfortunately, among those two guys, one was unreliable and the other was a waste. Therefore, he was a little conflicted. I don't care, it depends on what they think. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. In her eyes, it made no difference whether the two of them were around or not. They could not affect her anyway. Moreover, with Meng Bao around, Zhou Kun would probably not dare to harass her anymore. This was a good thing for her. Which one of you will go and ask them later? Yuchen swept a glance at Lung Ruoxue and the rest as he asked calmly. He had no intention of asking those two anyway. Lung Ruoxue and the others exchanged glances and fell silent. None of them wanted to ask. He didn't want to disturb the couple. He'll go ask. He'll go ask them. At this time, Baby volunteered to stretch out his claws, his little face full of excitement. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines when she saw how enthusiastic Baby was. What was Baby planning to do this time? This little thing who only wished for the world to be in chaos. Baby, he'll leave this matter to you, Ji Yun hurriedly said as soon as he saw that the beast had taken the initiative to take over the matter. It was as if he was afraid that the beast would go back on its word or that its master would not allow it to go. MMH, don't worry, they'll definitely get this done properly. Baby patted his chest and promised. After saying that, it bounced and ran to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent, waiting for the right time. However, after waiting for 2 days, the young couple did not come out of the tent. Suddenly, the baby wilted. Was its mission going to end in failure? Baby was very depressed. No, it would not allow its mission to fail. After making up his mind, Baby began to think of a good plan. How could he get the two people who had forgotten themselves out of the tent? This gave the beast a headache. After thinking about it for a day and a night, Baby asked Ling to help it hide on a dark and windy night. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one around, it took the flame that it had gotten from a certain phoenix and old dragon and quietly came to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent. Its beautiful purple eyes looked around first. Then it secretly put one of its small claws into the tent. After doing all this, Baby took small steps back to his own tent. Arg, help me. It's on fire. Late at night, an earth-shaking cry suddenly woke up Ji Yun and the others from their dreams. When they heard the cry, they hurriedly ran out of the tent to take a look, only to see Zhou Kun's tent being burned to ashes in front of their eyes. Fortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not in any serious danger, but they were obviously frightened and looked extremely embarrassed. What is this? How did it catch fire? Lung Ruoxue also came out of the tent with her precious little beasts. She asked Zhou Kun in puzzlement when she saw his tent, which was in ruins and had already been burned to ashes. We don't know either. We were sleeping soundly. Meng Bao said fearfully. As long as she thought of the scorching flames, she would still have a lingering fear. Fortunately, they had run away quickly. Otherwise, they would have been burned to ashes with the tent. Chapter 1882. The Consequences of the Scheme. 3. The fire was so hot and the temperature was extremely high. He really didn't know what kind of flame it was. She had lived for so long, but she had never seen such a terrifying flame. Meng Bao's heart trembled whenever she thought of the terrifying flame just now. However, even if she cracked her head, she would not be able to guess what kind of flame it was. It was because there was more than one type of flame. The baby's original intention was to get the two of them out of the tent, so it did not intend to harm their lives. Therefore, the little flame it threw out was not big at all, at most a small spark. However, no matter how small the flame was, it belonged to the dragon and phoenix and was of extremely high quality. Otherwise, the tent would not have been set on fire. As for the person, the fire had been specially treated by its owner. Although it looked terrifying, it would not burn them. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not aware of this, and the treasure would not take the initiative to tell them that it was the one who had set the fire, so it was not dangerous. Therefore, the two of them could only live with the shadow of the fire for the rest of their lives. What are your thoughts now? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. Seeing Zhou Kuan and Meng Bao's miserable and pitiful appearance, she knew without a doubt that the culprit must be Treasure. We don't know either. Zhou Kuan and Meng Bao looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Are you planning to stay here and cuddle, or are you going to leave? Lung Ruoshu couldn't help but roll her eyes and asked helplessly, sigh. It was just a little fire, and it scared the two of them to this extent. To think that they were gods. He was too timid. We're preparing to leave. Lung Ruoshu added, he'll go with you. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kuan did not ask for Meng Bao's opinion. Instead, he said impatiently, Boo, I don't want to be with this ugly tigress anymore. Otherwise, I'll lose my life sooner or later. Who do you want to go with? Upon hearing this, Meng Bao pulled Zhou Kuan into his arms and asked with a hostile expression and half-squinted eyes, as if she would teach him a lesson if he said anything wrong. Zhou Kuan was so frightened that he immediately changed his words. I'll go with you. Of course with you. What I mean is, we'll travel with them. Why do we have to travel with them? Can't the two of us go together? We can spend some time alone. Meng Bao laughed in a rather wretched manner. Upon hearing her words, Zhou Kuan really wanted to roll his eyes and pass out. Fuck, who would want to spend time with her alone? Hadn't he been tortured enough for the past few days? If it was really just the two of them, he would probably die of exhaustion before he could leave this place. Sob, this woman was too scary. At the thought of this, Zhou Kun's eyes began to wander around Ji Yun and the others. Doesn't this ugly monster want to build a harem? Then he would fulfill her wish. In this way, she would not pay much attention to him. With this thought in mind, he began to size up Ji Yun and the others even more impudently. Ji Yun and the others were covered in goosebumps from Zhou Kun's scheming gaze. They sensed that Zhou Kuan seemed to be up to no good and immediately raised their vigilance. At this moment, Zhou Kuan lowered his head and whispered to Meng Bao, Bao Bao, what do you think of those men? Do you want to take them into your harem? You're saying... Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao could not help but look at Ji Yun and the others. At that moment, Ji Yun and the others became even more careful. Fuck! Although they didn't know what Zhou Kuan was up to, they knew that he wouldn't do anything good. Unfortunately, the two of them were communicating through voice transmission, so they couldn't hear him even if they wanted to. They could not hear it, but Lung Ruoshue could. After sensing Zhou Kun's sneaky actions, Lung Ruoshue had already instructed Qing Zhu to read their minds. However, the result made her a little speechless. She really did not know what Zhou Kuan was thinking. Could it be that because he was in trouble, he was going to drag Ji Yun and the others down with him? However, judging from Meng Bao's words, he did not seem to be very interested in Ji Yun and the others. Otherwise, Zhou Kuan would never have the chance to be the man beside them. Things were just as Lung Ruoshue had guessed. After hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao sized up Ji Yun and the others. Among these people, Ji Yun was the one she was most dissatisfied with. This was because Ji Yun looked too weak. She did not like men who could be blown away by the wind. More importantly, Ji Yun was timid and often cried. This was something she could not stand. Thus, she was the first to reject Ji Yun. Yu-chun, she didn't want to touch her brother's friend. Otherwise, her brother would be angry at her, because Big Brother always said, Big Brother's friends should not be bullied, and she was very obedient to her big brother. As for the other two, no matter how she looked at them, she didn't think they were her type. He was too fair and his skin was too soft. She didn't feel the touch of such a man, so she directly crossed him out, which was also rejected by her. All in all, she still preferred men like Zhou Kuan, who were tall, strong, and looked very durable. After all, when choosing a man, she had to choose one that she could use for a long time. Otherwise, if he chose someone who looked good but was useless, wouldn't he be the one regretting it? Therefore, a man's face had never been in her consideration when choosing a man. Therefore, she was not satisfied with all of them. In other words, Zhou Kun's plot had failed, and Ji Yun and the others were safe. After sensing the change in Meng Bao's gaze, Ji Yun and the others felt strangely at ease. Although Meng Bao's eyes were full of provocation and dissatisfaction, they didn't know why, but they still felt at ease. Later on, When Lung Ruoxua talked to them about this matter, they suddenly realized why Zhou Kun was sizing them up with a scheming gaze and why Meng Bao was dissatisfied with them. It turned out that Zhou Kun was trying to drag them into this. This fact made the few of them extremely furious, and it was also destined that Zhou Kun's days in the special space would not be peaceful. However, at this moment, Zhou Kun was still unaware that his unlucky days were yet to come. At this time, he was still trying to persuade Meng Bao to go with them. It was only after he made countless unfair conditions and satisfied Meng Bao that Meng Bao finally agreed to go with Lung Ruoxua and the others. However, before she left, she warned Zhou Kun to stay away from Lung Ruoxua. Otherwise, he would bear the consequences. Upon hearing those words, Zhou Kun had no choice but to calm down under Meng Bao's tyrannical abuse of power. However, he knew that his heart was with Lung Ruoxua. After they set off, Lung Ruoxua and the others walked in front, while Meng Bao carried Zhou Kun in his arms like a princess. In her words, her little Kun was exhausted from the past few days, so he could not walk anymore. She could only carry him. In fact, even if Meng Bao did not explain himself, Lung Ruoxua and the others would not mind that Zhou Kun was being hugged by a woman. On the contrary, they were more than happy to watch a good show. Chapter 1883. Potential Rival in Love. 1. Just like that, Zhou Kun's face was flushed, and Meng Bao did not know if it was from embarrassment or anger. Moreover, he did not say a word along the way and always looked drowsy. Seeing this, Meng Bao's heart ached even more. AI. Little Kunkin had been exhausted recently because he had been so enthusiastic and brave these few nights that she almost couldn't handle it. Fortunately, she was physically stronger, so she had the strength to carry little Kun with her during the day. Although she was tired, she felt happy when she thought of little Kunkin's fiery enthusiasm. All her fatigue was swept away. Along the way, Lung Ruoxua and the others hurried along during the day and looked for a place to set up camp at night. As for Zhou Kun and Meng Bao, they would be so eager to get into their tents at night. After dinner, Lung Ruoxua and the rest gathered around the fire and chatted as usual. A familiar sound rang in their ears. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua raised her hand and cast a few spells, creating a soundproof barrier to block the sound from the outside. These two people were too good at disturbing people. Ji-yun, how much did you drug Zhou Kun? Yu-chin glanced at Ji-yun and said in a speechless manner. However, what made him feel even more incredulous was that the medicine took effect at intervals. Basically, they were fine during the day, but when it was late at night, the two of them would lose control of themselves, especially Zhou Kun. Not much, about a month's worth, Ji-yun said disapprovingly after some thought. Hearing his words, Yu-chin couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. A month's amount is not much. Then how much would be considered a lot? However, Zhou Kun really deserved to die. He actually dared to have designs on them. If they did not teach him a lesson, he would definitely rebel. As if he thought of something, Yu-chan said, Ji-yun, there's still more than 10 days left before we leave this place. By then, we will definitely have a big fight with others. If Zhou Kun continues to be so weak, he will drag us down. In my opinion, why don't you give him the antidote for the time being? If he is still alive after we leave this place, I will support you even if you give him 100 years of the antidote, let alone a month. Yes, I know what I'm doing. I won't let him drag us down. Ji-yun promised. In fact, he wanted Zhou Kun to enjoy himself for a few more days before he would secretly feed him the antidote. That's good. Hearing Ji-yun's words, Yu-chan was relieved. The next day, when Lung Ruoxua and the others walked out of the tent, they were surprised to find that Zhou Kun was already waiting for them. Moreover, his complexion was obviously much better, at least not as pale as before. However, he and Meng Bao had been pulling and tugging at each other. He wondered what they were doing. What are you guys doing? Lung Ruoxua and the rest asked curiously. During this period of time, these two people had added a lot of after-meal topics for them, so they had to show some concern. Little Kunkin's body is too weak, but he won't let me carry him. Upon seeing Lung Ruoxue and the others, Meng Bao immediately complained. That aggrieved look, coupled with her tall and strong body, really made people feel strange no matter how they looked at it. Little Kuan, how could you reject Bao Beo's good intentions? Ji Yun suppressed his laughter as he feigned being unable to bear it. I have my hands and feet. Can't I walk on my own? Why are you letting someone else carry you? Zhou Kun roared angrily. As soon as he thought of that, the flames in his heart would burst out. It's true that you have arms and legs, but unfortunately, your body has been too weak recently. If it weren't for Leopard holding you, I'm afraid you would have fallen behind. So, you have to thank her for not abandoning you. You must know how to be grateful, and you will get your retribution for being ungrateful. Ji Yun said disapprovingly. Hearing his words, Meng Bao's expression became even more aggrieved. Little Kunkin isn't an ungrateful person. He's just too shy. Meng Bao spoke up for Zhou Kun. He's shy? Ha ha ha. In this world, anyone can be shy, but he isn't. When Ji Yun heard this, he couldn't help but laugh, as if he had just heard a great joke. You don't understand him. In fact, little Kunkin is a very introverted child. Meng Bao said. Ji Yun looked at Meng Bao and then glanced at Zhou Kun. He felt nauseated. However, Zhou Kun vomited it out before he did. Little Kun, what's wrong? Why did you vomit? Upon seeing that, Meng Bao turned pale with fright and hurriedly rushed to Zhou Kun's side. He hugged him tightly in his arms and patted his back to comfort him. Cough, cough. Zhou Kun coughed twice, and his face turned pale again. Damn it. This fellow's hand was so strong. He would be slapped by her for no reason. I'm fine, she said. Zhou Kun said after he calmed down. You said you were fine, but you vomited. Meng Bao growled nervously. I said I'm fine, so I'm fine. Zhou Kun said impatiently. But he couldn't help but think that it would be great if Lung Ruoxue was the one who cared so much about him. He had to admit that he was still daydreaming about something that would never come true. Bao, don't worry. This is a normal reaction. I should congratulate you for becoming a mother soon. At this moment, Ji Yun interjected. When Lung Ruoxue and the others heard Ji Yun's words, black lines appeared on their foreheads. Does this fellow mean that Zhou Kun is pregnant? However, Zhou Kun obviously had not reacted yet, and this idea was really too different. The few of them muttered to themselves at the same time. However, in order to cooperate with Ji Yun, they all looked at Zhou Kun with burning eyes, which made Zhou Kun even more annoyed. Going to be a mother? Ji Yun's words made Meng Bao a little dumbfounded. This good news came too suddenly, and she was not mentally prepared for it. But your little Kun is too weak, so you have to take good care of him. After all, he's now a dual-bodied person. Ji Yun warned. This time, he was very straightforward, and Zhou Kun and Meng Bao both heard him clearly. Damn it, what did you just say? I dare you to say that again. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Zhou Kun was a little angry from embarrassment. Fuck, he was a man. That coward from the Ji family actually said that he was pregnant. Wasn't he deliberately trying to anger him to death? After all, it was a woman's business to have a baby, and he had no right to do so. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Congratulations, little Kun. You're pregnant. Ji Yun did not care about Zhou Kun's fierce look at all, and congratulated him with a smile. Fuck, I'm a man. Zhou Kun gritted his teeth and said fiercely. I didn't say you're a woman. Ji Yun's smile was very annoying. That Ji Yun, how could little Kun have a child? Meng Bao also asked in confusion. She had originally thought that Ji Yun was talking about her. Only now did he know that the person Ji Yun said was going to give birth to a child was actually little Kun. This was simply impossible. Even if she didn't have any common sense, she knew that a woman gave birth to a baby, and men didn't have that function. Chapter 1884. Potential Rival in Love 2. I'm just guessing based on his reaction. However, we're all cultivators, so we should be very clear about the abnormalities in our bodies. So, let him check it himself. Won't we know if he has it or not? Ji Yun suggested. I'm gonna make you give up on this idea right now. Ji Yun's suggestion was exactly what Zhou Kun wanted. After he said that fiercely, he used his divine consciousness to explore Ji Yun's body and carefully examined it. How? How could this be possible? After checking Zhou Kun's body, his face turned paler and paler. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao was frightened and shouted loudly, "Little Kunkin, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." However, Zhou Kun only looked into his body and did not give Meng Bao any response. It could also be said that he was completely in a dazed state because he discovered that there seemed to be a life aura in his dantian that did not belong to him, but was closely connected to him. This fact made his heart sink involuntarily. Oh, how could this be? He even wanted to die. Little Kunkin, unwilling to give up, Meng Bao continued to call out and tugged Zhou Kun's sleeve with all his might. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun still did not respond and was immersed in his own world. Bao Bao, calm down. He should be fine. He just can't accept that he's going to have a baby. Ji Yun advised. Oh, is he really fine? Meng Bao was still worried. He'll definitely be fine. Don't you worry. Ji Yun gave Meng Bao a consoling look and promised. That's good. Meng Bao was relieved for the time being. Besides, she had to digest this good news properly. She was actually going to be a mother, and the child would be born from the belly of her child's father. This was really amazing. She was so happy that she was too lazy to investigate why Zhou Kun could give birth to a child. After all, this was the divine realm, and anything was possible. All of a sudden, Zhou Kun burst into tears. Then, he ran back to his tent without looking back. Little Kunkin, Meng Bao cried out in worry. You should go and comfort him. I'm guessing he won't be able to accept this fact for a while. Ji Yun hurriedly urged. Oh, he'll go comfort him immediately. After saying that, Meng Bao, who was at a loss, also ran away. After the two of them left, Lung Ruoxue and the rest turned their gazes towards Ji Yun. They looked at him steadily without saying a word. Ji Yun's hair stood on end from their gazes. Cold sweat involuntarily trickled down his forehead. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead with lingering fear. He couldn't take it anymore and said, Don't look at me like that. I'm scared. These wolf-like gazes seemed to want to eat him up. Woo, how could they bully him like this? Ji Yun felt wronged. What did you do? After a long while, Lung Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. She did not believe that Zhou Kun, a grown man, would be pregnant. I didn't do anything. Ji Yun blinked his eyes and said innocently, Leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist. It's your choice. Lung Ruoxue didn't waste any words with him and directly gave him two choices. Can I choose the third option? Ji Yun said with a fawning smile. There's no third option. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes were half squinted as she looked at Ji Yun with an unfriendly expression. Woo-woo, you're such bullies. What exactly do you want me to do? Ji Yun couldn't bear the enormous pressure and said with a sad face, We just want to know what's going on with Zhou Kun's pregnancy. Are you the one behind it? Yu Chun sighed softly and said somewhat helplessly, If it was really Ji Yun who was playing tricks on Zhou Kun, he would not be worried. He was only afraid that Zhou Kun was really pregnant. If that happened, it would be difficult to handle. Although he had not heard of any man who could give birth in the divine realm, just because they did not know did not mean that it did not exist in this world. If I say that he really has it, would you believe me? Ji Yun cautiously asked. What do you think? Yu Chen asked. All right, I admit that I did something to him. Ji Yun confessed honestly. How did you do it? Lung Ruoxue was a little curious. Ji Yun had actually made Zhou Kun mistakenly think that there were signs of life in her body. This was not an easy thing to do. I once obtained a pill by chance. That pill has the effect of simulating the characteristics of life. So, I gave it to him without him knowing. Ji Yun said smugly. So that's how it is. It's a good thing that he's not really pregnant. Otherwise, would be in big trouble. Yu Chun heaved a sigh of relief after hearing this. How can our trouble be big? Ji Yun didn't understand. If he really has it, can we immediately set off? Not only that, but Meng Bao might even need us to help take care of him. Don't you think we're in big trouble? I don't want to take care of that pregnant woman. Yu Chun gritted his teeth and emphasized the word pregnant. Ha ha ha. Seeing Yu Chin's reaction, Lung Ruoxue and the rest could not help but laugh. At this time, Zhou Kuan, who had already hidden in the tent, was in an extremely low mood. He had it. He actually had a child. He didn't become the first eunuch in the divine realm, but was about to become the first man to give birth to a child in the divine realm. This fact was also something that he couldn't accept. Zhou Kuan lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face. All of a sudden, he was hugged by a strong arm. The owner of the arm looked at him with a distressed expression and said, "Little Kunkin, I know it's hard for you to accept this, but there's no point in being depressed now. Let's just get over it. Be good. We're going to have a baby. Hee. This is really good news." After Meng Bao comforted Zhou Kuan a little, he was so happy that he forgot himself again. However, Zhou Kuan became even angrier when he heard her words. "Good news, my ass. If you're pregnant, it might be good news, but I'm the one pregnant now. How's that good news? If outsiders were to find out, how would I have the face to continue living in the divine realm in the future?" Zhou Kuan was furious, and he had no way to vent the anger in his heart. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. But things have already come to this. What else can we do? Meng Bao said helplessly. She knew that little Kunkin was in a bad mood, so she could only coax him patiently. Zhou Kuan was a little speechless. Damn it. If he knew what to do, wouldn't that be good? Little Kuan, let's get married immediately after we leave the elite conference. Otherwise, wouldn't our child be an illegitimate child? Seeing that Zhou Kuan seemed to have calmed down a little, Meng Bao made a suggestion. Married? There are still 10 days left until the elite gathering. Anything can happen in these 10 days. So, let's think about how to save our lives here first. As for marriage, we can talk about it later. Zhou Kuan said perfunctorily. Although he had the ugly woman's child, he still did not want to marry her. Chapter 1885. Potential Rival in Love 3. Little Kunkin, don't worry. With me around, we'll do everything I can to ensure your and our child's safety. Meng Bao promised. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Zhou Kuan understood that when the day of the decisive battle came, it would be good enough if Meng Bao could protect himself. He would not be able to take care of Zhou Kuan. Little Kuan, you have to believe me. I'll definitely place your and our child's safety as my top priority. Seeing that Zhou Kuan did not seem to believe her words, Meng Bao assured him again. Then, he acted cute and coquettishly, finally making Zhou Kuan believe him. In fact, Zhou Kuan was just annoyed by her. Hence, he had no choice but to pretend to believe her. In the next few days, Zhou Kuan remained sickly and could not eat anything at all. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao, who was trying to please him, almost turned white from worry. With no other choice, Meng Bao could only seek help from Lung Ruoxue. In the tent, Meng Bao looked at Lung Ruoxue uneasily and mumbled, "Miss Lung, I need your help. If you want me to persuade Zhou Kuan to eat on your behalf, forget it," Lung Ruoxue said, cutting off Meng Bao's words. "Why? He doesn't want to eat, but I know he'll listen to you. Please help me persuade him." Meng Bao pleaded, "Miss Meng, Zhou Kuan is just suffering from morning sickness. If he really can't eat, you don't have to force him. He's already a god anyway, so he won't starve to death even if he doesn't eat. As for the child in his stomach, you don't have to worry about it. The child of a god isn't that weak." In fact, in her opinion, Meng Bao was even more abnormal than Zhou Kuan. After all, Zhou Kuan was just depressed and could not accept the fact that he was pregnant. However, what about Meng Bao? However, she had been busy for the past few days. "Miss Meng, we have to leave this place tomorrow." Lung Ruoxue reminded him again. Due to Zhou Kuan's pregnancy, they had been delayed for a few more days, and they could not afford to delay any longer. "Miss Lung, there's no need to leave in a hurry. We might be teleported to a place with many people." Knowing that Lung Ruoxue was anxious to compete, Meng Bao revealed a secret. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue's pupils contracted. She squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently, "Are you saying that we will be transported to other places?" "I'm just saying that it's possible, because the situation is different every year. If the battle in that year is relatively intense, we won't be teleported away. However, if there are too many contestants like us who haven't fought a single battle, we might be gathered together. Meng Bao explained. There's such a situation. Lung Ruoxue had never heard her godfather mention this before, so she was really not sure. However, such a situation has only happened once in history, and it has been a long time, so I guess that many families have forgotten about it. Meng Bao said, Since you knew, why didn't you tell us earlier? You made us run around like headless flies. Lung Ruoxue complained. I can't think of it at the moment. Moreover, this situation isn't absolute. I just feel that it's possible for us to do so, and it may not be what I think. Meng Bao observed Lung Ruoxue's expression and asked carefully, So, you're willing to take a gamble for Zhou Kun's sake? Lung Ruoxue asked, clearly aware that Meng Bao would not have remembered this if it were not for the fact that Zhou Kun was pregnant and could not travel in a hurry. Of course, it was also possible that she wouldn't tell him even if she knew. We haven't even fought before. I believe that the God Lord's estate will have other arrangements. Meng Bao said with certainty, If it's not like what you said, and we weren't teleported together, what should we do? Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. Then there's no loss for you to stay here. There's no one else here, and we don't have to fight to the death, nor will we get hurt. When the time comes, we'll naturally be able to leave. Meng Bao said with a smile. Right now, she really needed Lung Ruoxue and the others by her side. Therefore, she must not let them leave. After all, if she were to encounter an opponent, it would be a little difficult for her to protect Zhou Kun alone. If everyone thinks the same way as you, then what are we doing here? Are you traveling? This woman has really fallen into Zhou Kun's love net, Lung Ruoxue said, feeling a little speechless. Look at how she pampers Zhou Kun. She's almost worshipping him. Peace is the most important thing. It's boring to fight and kill, isn't it? Meng Bao said with a sneer. When we first met, it seemed like you already wanted to fight us. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a half-smile. It was a misunderstanding. That was a misunderstanding. We're also friends after a fight. Meng Bao chuckled. She didn't deny that she had the desire to fight, but that was different now. Little Kunkin was pregnant. If she fought with others like before and accidentally hurt Little Kunkin, it would be a life-and-death situation. Out of blows, friendship grows. Since you've said so, we'll have to risk our lives to accompany you. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Meng Bao's face lit up with joy. However, Lung Ruoxue's next words caused her anticipation to drop to the bottom of the valley. However, don't expect me to persuade Zhou Kun for you. Lung Ruoxue continued. Can't you? Meng Bao still wanted to persuade Lung Ruoxue. We can't. Lung Ruoxue interrupted Meng Bao's words and said without any room for discussion. All right then. Looking at the stubborn Lung Ruoxue, Meng Bao knew that he would not be able to convince her. She had already given him face by staying, so he should not force her to do anything. After saying that, Meng Bao turned around and left resentfully. Not long after she left, Ji Yun and the others ran in sneakily. Ruoxue, what did she say to you? By the way, shouldn't we be preparing to leave? Ji Yun asked in rapid succession. There's no rush. Well, stay here until the end of the competition. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Lung Ruoxue's words left Ji Yun dumbfounded. He didn't hear her wrong, did he? The person who wanted to leave the most had actually taken the initiative to stay. Seeing that Ji Yun and the others were puzzled, Lung Ruoxue repeated what Yao Bao had told her to them. After hearing it, Ji Yun and the others all fell silent. I still have to fight. Ji Yun's face was teary as he spoke with extreme reluctance. Of course we have to fight. Why else would you come here? Are you here to play? Yu Chan said, somewhat speechless. Ji Yun's words made him have the urge to beat someone up. How did you know that I came here to play? In fact, I'm just a bystander. Who asked me to be the young master of the Ji family? I had no choice but to come. Ji Yun's tone was filled with grievance. Yu Shu gritted her teeth upon hearing this. It seemed that the Ji family had really spoiled Ji Yun. Chapter 1886. Interrogation 1. As he thought of this, Yu Qin's gaze turned to Ji Wu and Ji Tao, and he communicated with them with his eyes. Is this the young master of the Ji family? Ji Wu and Ji Tao returned Yu Qin's gaze with absolute certainty. In reality, the two of them had no way of dealing with Ji Yun's temper. Even the Ji clan's ancestor had to admit defeat when facing Ji Yun, let alone them. This was because sometimes Ji Yun was really... Seeing their expressions, Yu Chun lost his temper. Sister Ruoxue, since you decided to stay here, then well stay here. Yu Qin sighed and changed the topic. After receiving Yu Qin's affirmative answer, Lung Ruoxue turned her gaze towards Ji Yun and the other two. Without waiting for Lung Ruoxue to ask, Ji Yun immediately expressed his stance in a very obsequious manner. Ruoxue, they'll be wherever you are. Is that so? Suddenly, an ice-cold voice sounded out of nowhere, causing the temperature around them to drop. When Ji Yun and the rest heard this voice, they could not help but shiver. On the other hand, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with joy as she hurriedly left the tent. The moment she stepped out of the tent, Lung Ruoxue saw a peerless and magnificent man standing outside. In an instant, she was like a swallow returning to its nest as she threw herself into the man's embrace. The man was also hugging Lung Ruoxue tightly. When Ji Wu and the others came out and saw this scene, their eyes immediately widened in disbelief. What was this situation? Ji Yun's reaction was even more direct. He immediately roared, "Let go of Ruoxue." After he finished speaking, he wanted to rush forward and pull the two people who were tightly hugging each other away, but he was stopped by Ji Wu and Ji Tao. "Why are you guys pulling me? Quickly let me go. Can't you see that little sister Ruoxue is being bullied?" Ji Yun was furious. He glared at the man's arms that were wrapped around Lung Ruoxue. He wished he could burn a hole in them. It's too much of an eyesore, isn't it? It was really an eyesore. Ji Yun was going crazy. He hadn't even hugged little sister Ruoxue before. Now, it was actually snatched by a guy who came out of nowhere. It was really preposterous. Young master, don't embarrass yourself. The two of them should know each other. Ji Tao couldn't help but send a mental message. Ji Yun, who was burning with jealousy, couldn't see the situation clearly, but couldn't they? Moreover, that man didn't look like someone to be trifled with. His Ji Yun was probably no match for him. They were well aware of this, so they naturally wouldn't allow Ji Yun to do something he shouldn't have done in his rashness. How is this possible? Ji Yun stupidly muttered to himself. He was unwilling to believe this truth, because whether it was in terms of appearance or cultivation, that man was much stronger than him. Woo! One was the bright moon in the sky, while the other was the dust on the ground. There was simply no comparison between the two of them. However, he, who had always been self-aware, knew that the dust was him. "Young master, calm down. When once we ask." Ji Tao consoled her. The truth was clear, so there was no need to ask. After all, they had been together with Lung Ruoxue for quite some time. Although that woman looked very friendly, there was a hint of alienation in her friendliness. However, before they could ask about the man's identity, Lung Ruoxue took the initiative to introduce him to them. "He's my fiancé, Yechin," Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the devilish man in front of her. During this period of time, she really wanted to be a devilish man. Hello. I've long heard of your great name." Ji Wu and Ji Tao hurriedly replied, while secretly sizing up Yechin from the corner of their eyes. When Ji Yun found out that this man was Ruoxue's fiancé, he immediately became listless from the huge blow. "Oh, heavens! You don't have to provoke me like this. TSK, what an unparalleled handsome man." Ji Wu and Ji Tao secretly praised him. Although they had always admitted that they were pretty compared to this demonic man, the difference was like heaven and earth. There was no way to compare them. In addition to his cold temperament, he had the ability to cause the surrounding temperature to drop by a lot, which was something they did not have. Previously, They had been gossiping and guessing what kind of man was qualified to be Lung Ruoxue's fiancé. After all, Lung Ruoxue was a peerless beauty in their eyes. Hence, they had already determined in their hearts that a man who was worthy of Lung Ruoxue would definitely not be an ordinary man. Today, they had finally met this man who had been known for a long time. He was indeed worthy of his reputation. The two of them, be it their appearance or temperament, were very compatible. Furthermore, when they saw the beautiful couple snuggling together, they actually felt that it was so natural, and so pleasing to the eye. At this moment, if someone wanted to destroy this beautiful scene, they would find it unbearable. Unfortunately, there were always people who didn't know what was good for them. Young Master Yi, who is this young lady? Suddenly, a gentle and beautiful voice interrupted abruptly, breaking the originally quiet atmosphere. When Ji Wu and Ji Tao saw that someone had ruined this beautiful atmosphere, they were instantly enraged. However, when they saw the face of the person who had spoken, they were both dumbfounded. Sister Min, the two of them said in unison. They didn't expect the person who ruined this beautiful atmosphere to be their eldest miss of the Ji family. What should they do now? Ji Wu and Ji Tao looked at each other, feeling helpless. When Lung Ruoxue heard Ji Min's words, she didn't even look at Ji Min. Instead, she turned her beautiful eyes towards the demon. Seeing this, the demon's expression remained calm and composed as he brought Lung Ruoxue into the tent. When Ji Min saw this scene, her lungs almost exploded from anger. Damn it! These two people actually ignored her existence like this. Since when had she ever received such treatment? Who's that woman? Ji Min was so angry that she grabbed Ji Tao's collar and pulled him in front of her. She couldn't help but ask, It's his fiancé. Ji Tao told the truth. At this time, his reaction was slow, but he also knew that his haughty eldest miss had fallen for that demonic man. However, looking at the state of their relationship, it would be difficult for outsiders to intervene. At the thought of this, Ji Tao looked at Ji Yun worriedly. This pair of siblings could really be considered to be in the same boat. However, Ji Yun seemed to be in a better state, as he had always been carefree since he was young. It was hard to say for Ji Min. Although Ji Min was the eldest young lady of the Ji family and one of the most dazzling leaders of their generation, and was considered an idol-level figure in their hearts, after being with Lung Ruoxue for this period of time, Ji Tao was very clear about Lung Ruoxue's character. She was not easy to get along with. If Ji Min met her, she might not be able to gain any benefits. More importantly, Lung Ruoxue was their savior, so he was 1,000 times more. They really didn't want Ji Min to have any ideas about her fiancé. If the two of them had any conflicts, they would feel very embarrassed. Chapter 1887. Interrogation 2. They should have helped Ji Min, but they would feel sorry for Lung Ruoxue if they did that. Ji Min was not in the right, but she was still a member of the Ji family, so they did not do anything to her. Ji Tao began to feel conflicted. Fiancé. Ji Min narrowed her eyes, and a thought-provoking light flashed in the depths of her beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that young Master Yi really had a fiancé. She thought that they were just perfunctory with her. What should I do now? Miss Ji, I've told you before that Commander Yi is my Miss Fiancé. Now you should believe me. At this time, another helpless voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw two beautiful women standing not far away from them. One of them was wearing green clothes, and the other was wearing pink clothes. The one who spoke was the woman in green. These two people were Lu Tao and Sueju. Green Peach, was that woman really your family's young miss? Ji Min asked with a slight suspicion. How can this be fake? Don't tell me we don't even recognize our own miss? Lu Tao rolled her eyes and said, somewhat speechless. When they first met Ji Min, they felt that Ji Min was a very open and generous person and was easy to get along with. However, ever since she met Commander Yi, Ji Min seemed to have changed into a different person overnight and became a stranger to them. Perhaps this was the real her. Since that woman is your family's young miss, why didn't you all go up and acknowledge her just now? Jimin was still very suspicious and raised a new question. We do want to go forward, but guild leader, Yi clearly wants to spend some alone time with my young miss. If we go forward, won't we attract guild leader Yes hatred? As a human, you should know your place and not do such a disgusting thing. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Green Peach said with a hidden meaning. These words were clearly directed at Jimin, but Jimin didn't intend to take Green Peach's warning seriously. After all, Green Peach's identity was obvious. She was willing to let go of her identity as the young lady of the G family to befriend him, which was already a great honor for her. How could she allow Green Peach to ruin her marriage? From the first time she saw Yechin, her eyes and heart had been filled with that man's figure. She could no longer tolerate anyone else's existence. So for the sake of her own happiness, she had to take a gamble. Not to mention that Lung Ruoxue only had a fiancé. Even if she already had a wife, she still wanted to snatch the only man that she liked from another woman. After she made up her mind, she saw Lung Ruoxue as her greatest love rival in this life. However, she thought of herself as a wise woman. Even if she wanted to snatch her love away, she had to pay attention to the method and strategy. She could not give others the chance to gossip. Fortunately, Lung Ruoxue was still unaware of Jimin's thoughts. Otherwise, she would definitely mock her for wanting to be a whore and yet wanting to have a good reputation. When will they come out? Jimin asked as she looked at the tightly shut tent. When she said this, her expression was normal, but in fact, her heart was already in turmoil. She was jealous. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. Why wasn't she the woman inside? Throughout the entire journey, Yi-chun had never looked at her in the eye, let alone smiled at her. However, she had clearly seen Yi-chun smile at the woman just now, and he seemed to be very doting on her. All of this made her so jealous that she was going crazy. I don't know, maybe tomorrow, or maybe they won't come out until they leave this place. Lu Tao said indifferently, "How can I do that?" Upon hearing this, Jimin gritted her teeth in hatred. "Why can't I? Leader Yi is my miss man. Isn't it only natural for them to be together?" Lu Tao said with a faint smile. Her impression of Jimin was getting worse and worse. Ever since Commander Yi appeared, her good impression of Jimin had disappeared. But we're in a competition. Jimin couldn't help but remind him. It doesn't matter. The final battle hasn't come yet. The two of them haven't seen each other for so long. It's only right for them to have a good gathering. At this moment, Yu Shu said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Jimin immediately pointed the spearhead at Yu-chun and questioned him with an unhappy expression. "Who are you? Is there any place for you to interrupt?" She was so angry that she couldn't maintain her usual elegant demeanor and directly exposed her true nature. Seeing her like this, Ji Wu and Ji Tao, who had never seen this side of her before, widened their eyes in shock. They looked at Ji Min in disbelief, as if their eldest miss had been replaced by someone else. On the other hand, Ji Yun was much calmer, and a trace of ridicule flashed through his clear eyes. "I'm Sister Ruoxu's brother. Since you're suspicious of their privacy, and she's not here, I naturally have to answer you on her behalf." When Yu-chan said this, he had a faint smile on his face, but his tone was very indifferent and distant. Looking at Jimin, Yu-chan was a little disappointed with the eldest miss of the Ji family, who was rumored to be a god. Thinking back, someone in the Yu family had even suggested for Jimin to be his young madam. Fortunately, it was rejected by the old ancestor. Now it seemed that the older the wiser. The old ancestor must have long seen that Jimin was a person who did not mean what she said. Otherwise, he would not have rejected this matter. Looking at Jimin, Yu-chan once again thanked the old ancestor for his wise decision. Although Jimin was very beautiful, she gave off a very strong feeling. This type of woman was usually very stubborn and would not give up until she achieved her goal. So, when he saw her reaction to the man just now, Yu-chan started to worry about Lung Ruoxue. In his heart, he really treated Lung Ruoxue as his little sister. In addition, Lung Ruoxue did not act very domineering in front of them. Hence, Yu-chan subconsciously placed Lung Ruoxue in a position that needed protection. As for this woman who wanted to hurt Ruoxue and snatch Ruoxue's fiancée, she was naturally blacklisted by him. The way people interacted with each other was really strange. Some people might not become true friends even after knowing each other for a lifetime. However, some people only knew each other for a few minutes, and they could become life-and-death friends that they trusted the most. This was probably fate between people. Brother? That's not her real brother. What right do you have to represent her? Jimin scoffed at Yichen's words and said disdainfully, Sister, Brother Yu is the young master of the Yu family. Suddenly, Ji Yun reminded her. Although he didn't like his sister very much, he couldn't just watch Ji Min offend Yichun. It wouldn't do the Ji family any good. So, it's the Yu family's young master. Ji Min has been impolite. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Ji Min immediately reacted and resumed her usual magnanimous and appropriate way of dealing with things. She also apologized to Yu Shu. Yuchen only smiled and did not say anything. At this moment, Ji Min's gaze turned to Ji Yun. She rushed in front of Ji Yun with unusual enthusiasm and tightly grabbed his wrist. She sized him up and down. After confirming that Ji Yun was safe and sound, she seemed to be relieved. Xiao Yun, it's great that you're fine. You don't know how worried I've been for you. Chapter 1888. Interrogation 3. Thank you for your concern, sister. I'm very well. The corner of Ji Yun's mouth twitched as he indifferently replied. He was extremely cold to Ji Min's enthusiasm. Ji Tao and Ji Wu were already used to this, but Yu Chun felt that the way the siblings got along was a little unusual. Xiaoyan, are you still blaming me? AI, it's all Big Sister's fault. If I had held you tightly when we entered this place, we wouldn't have been separated. You must have suffered a lot. Ji Min said with a pained expression, her beautiful face full of guilt. Sister, I don't blame you. Ji Yin rolled his eyes and said in a speechless manner, does this sister speak without thinking? If when they entered this place, the people of each clan could be transmitted together as long as they held each other tightly, then what was the point of entering here? It would be better to compete directly outside. Little Yun, when she heard this, Ji Min thought that Ji Yun was angry. Therefore, she looked at him with an aggrieved expression. Sister, I'm tired. I'll go back and rest first. Ji Yun was speechless at Ji Min's reaction, but he didn't want to act like a brother and sister in front of outsiders, so he went straight into his tent. Xiao Yun, Ji Yun had already left. Ji Min watched his back as he left, but she still called out softly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, but she forced them back. Little Yun is blaming me. Ji Min muttered to herself. Seeing her like this, Ji Wu and Ji Tao didn't know what to say, because this kind of situation was common in the Ji family. Outsiders all knew that Ji Min doted on Ji Yun to the bone, but what they didn't know was that Ji Min always stuck her warm face to Ji Yun's cold ass, because Ji Yun didn't appreciate her love at all. Turning around and leaving like this was still fine, but Ji Yun was capable of doing things that made Ji Min even more embarrassed. Although they didn't know why Ji Yun would treat Ji Min like this. According to their ancestor, this was the unique way the siblings got along. As long as they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it, it was enough. No one had the right to question it. Ever since the patriarch had said these words, the clansmen who felt that Ji Min had been treated unfairly had greatly decreased. After all, everyone was well aware that the patriarch was clearly biased towards Ji Yun. Don't you think Xiaoyan is blaming me? Seeing that no one responded to her words, Ji Min could only ask again. The young master won't blame you. You're his sister after all. Ji Tao had no choice but to comfort her. Although he admired Ji Min, in his heart, Ji Yun was still more important. No matter how useless Ji Yun appeared to be, his position as young master Ji Yun was still unbreakable. Everyone in the Ji family knew this. That's good. AI, when you have time, please explain it to me. I don't want Xiaoyan to misunderstand me, Ji Min said with a hint of resentment. Yes. Ji Wu and Ji Tao nodded their heads readily. As for whether or not they would tell him, and when, that was their own business. After that, the few people who didn't feel very familiar with each other felt that they had nothing to say and each found an excuse to go back to work. Seeing Lu Tao and Cizhu setting up the tent, Yu Chun, who had nothing to do, took the initiative to help. Young master of the Yu family, there's no need to trouble you. What we done immediately? Seeing that Yu Chun was about to make a move, Lu Tao hurriedly stopped him. They had also heard about Yu Chin's identity from Ji Yun. You don't have to be so polite with me. In the big brother, that little sister Ruoshu acknowledged. Yu Chun said enthusiastically. Lu Tao did not know what to do with Yu Chun, who was so familiar with her. They were used to doing everything by themselves. Therefore, they were not used to an outsider coming to help. What's more, the person who came claimed to be her young miss brother. Would her young miss be so bored as to casually acknowledge a brother? Green Peach was very suspicious of this. However, she was too lazy to expose him. After all, what were these young masters? They had to give him some face, right? In reality, Lu Tao's guess was right. It was not Lung Ruoxue who had taken the initiative to acknowledge Yu Chun as her brother, but Yushu had called him that out of familiarity. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue had tacitly agreed. Yu Chun was not an annoying fellow anyway, and he was very tactful. In that case, it was no loss for her to have an older brother who had taken the initiative to come to her door. By the way, how did you find us? Is it a coincidence, or? Then, while helping Lu Tao and Cizhu set up their tents, Yushu asked curiously. Hee, of course, I know where you are. Otherwise, how would we be able to find it? However, we've been searching for you for days. Hearing Yu Chin's question, Sueju replied without much scheming. Seeing Queeze's straightforward answer, Lu Tao could not help but glare at her. However, Lu Tao also felt that Yu Chin's question was not a secret. So, she simply explained it. We met two people on the way, and they told us. However, they only told us your approximate location. So, in order to find you, we have been searching for a long time. Lu Tao's words were similar to Ziju's. After Yu Chin heard it, he suspected that they had met the same person, Lu Sun, whom Lung Ruoxue had mentioned that Zhou Kuan had offended. And this Lu Sun told everyone his whereabouts. What was he trying to do? Could it be that Lu Sun thought that Lung Ruoxue and the rest would remain in their original positions? Wasn't Lu Sun's IQ too low? Actually, someone told me that I would meet little sister Ruoxue and the others. Furthermore, according to my guess, the person who told us about little sister Ruoxue and the others' whereabouts should be the same person. Following that, Yu Chin also truthfully said, Arg, what was going on? What does he want to do? Yu Chin's words caused Lu Tao and Sueju to turn pale with fright. However, at the same time, they were also quite glad. After all, they had already found their miss. With them around, let's see who dares to bully their young miss. For revenge, Yu Chin said softly. Then he told the two maidservants what he had heard from Lung Ruoxue and the others. Lu Tao and Sueju were dumbfounded and gasped in admiration. After a long time, Lu Tao and Sueju kept sighing, and their beautiful faces were filled with depression. Don't worry, little sister Ruoxue and the others will be fine. When he saw that the two maidservants had become listless after hearing his words, he thought that they were worried about Lung Ruoxue. Hence, he consoled them immediately. We're not worried, we're just regretful. Sueju could not help but ask. This time, it was Yushu's turn to be stunned. Then he asked in a silly manner, What are you regretting? It's a pity that we weren't there. We didn't even get to participate in such a fun event. Sob, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Sueju said somewhat exaggeratedly, her beautiful eyes still faintly rippling with tears. Chapter 1889. Interrogation 4. Yushu started to sweat. He deeply felt that he was old, and there was a big generation gap between him and these little girls. Otherwise, why couldn't he understand what this little girl was thinking? If Sueju had said that she was worried about Lung Ruoxue, or that she was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would be injured, he would have thought that it was normal. However, she had treated it as a game and even regretted that she could not participate. Was this how a normal person thought? What's there to regret? Maybe that guy will come to our miss for revenge. At that time, We'll take care of him. Unlike Tsuju, although she was also depressed at the beginning, she thought further. She even thought that the other party might come to take revenge on her young lady, so she decided to make early preparations. Soon after, Lu Tao took out all of her bottles from her storage ring and said with a wicked smile, "If that guy really dares to come, it'll let him have a good taste of the power of these medicines." Seeing this, Yu Chun was extremely surprised. What are these medicines? In view of the green peach's high praise for his medicine, Yu Chun was very curious. Poison. Green peach's pink lips parted slightly as she spat out 2 words. Yushu's forehead was full of black lines. She thought to herself, a woman's heart is indeed the most vicious. Lu Sun hadn't arrived yet, but the other party had already prepared the poison. However, with so many bottles of poison, would Lu Sun be able to handle it? Most of them are poison, but some aren't. Green Peach explained kindly when she saw that Yuhan seemed to be frightened. "This is itching powder," she continued. "This bottle was stinky powder. This place is filled with things that can make the whole body rot." She introduced them to Yu Chun one by one with a bad heart. After Yu Chun heard this, more black lines appeared on his forehead, and he broke out in cold sweat. He thought in his heart, ruthless. How ruthless? Compared to those so-called poisons, these medicines were probably even better. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shiver. Sob. Women these days were really too scary, especially the more harmless they looked. When they were fierce, they were often unexpected. However, thinking of the effects of the powder that Lu Tao had introduced to him, Yu Chen's heart began to itch like a cat scratch. Although the powder sounded scary, it was good to save lives in critical moments. Thinking of this, he thickened his skin and began to please her. Can you give me some of these herbs? I want to keep it for self-defense." Yu Chun said, a little embarrassed. "No, I only have these. If you really want them, go to my family's young miss." Seeing Yu Chun staring at her medicine, Green Peach hurriedly put away the medicine and looked at him with a vigilant look. However, she still kindly provided Yu Chun with the source of these medicines. "Little sister Roashua, do you have a lot?" Yu Chun asked in surprise. "Yes." Lu Tao nodded and thought, of course her young miss has a lot, because that medicine was refined by her young miss. "Then I'll go and get it from sister Roashua," Yu Chun said hurriedly. He was about to look for Lung Roashua, but he was stopped by Lu Tao. "Wait, you can't go now. Otherwise, guild leader Yi will hate you." Lu Tao could not help but remind him. Why?" Yu Chun was puzzled. He didn't do anything to Lung Roashua, so why would that fellow hate him? Stupid. Don't be a third wheel now, otherwise, leader Yi will go crazy. Sueju could not help but say. After saying this, she deeply felt that she was really too kind. All right then. Thanks for the reminder. I'm going back to rest. You guys should rest early too." After Yu Chun finished speaking, he turned around and left. Seeing this, Lu Tao and Sueju also entered the tent that had just been set up. For a moment, only Ji Min, Ji Wu, and Ji Tao were left in the large area. Ji Wu and Ji Tao wanted to find an excuse to return to the tent, but Ji Min refused to let them leave. She insisted on chatting with them. Although she said it was a chat, she was only asking them about Lung Ruoxu's situation. In reality, they had not spent a lot of time with Lung Ruoxu, so their understanding of her was naturally not deep enough. Hence, after their conversation, they could not provide much useful information to Ji Min. In fact, Ji Min was not even clear about Lung Ruoxu's strength. This fact made Ji Min extremely depressed and dejected. In the end, she didn't even know when Ji Wu and Ji Tao had left. She sat by the fire alone until dawn. On the other side, after the demon pulled Lung Ruoxu into the tent, he had Lung Ruoxu bring him back to the bangle. In the purple bamboo house, the two of them shared their lovesickness with each other. Following that, Lung Ruoxu began to interrogate the woman about her identity. "Demon, tell me the truth. Who is that woman?" Lung Ruoxu pretended to be angry and put on a straight face, pretending to be displeased. This fellow was really too good at attracting peach blossoms. However, This peach blossom seemed to be smarter and was different from the brainless women in the past. This kind of woman was relatively difficult to deal with. She's just a passerby. Let's not talk about her anymore. Let's change the topic. The demon suggested. No, explain her problem first, or else you're not allowed to change the topic. It was rare for Lung Ruoxue to be so willful, and she did not leave any room for discussion. But she really has nothing to talk about. In comparison, I'm more interested in knowing who the guy who said that "I'll be there wherever you are" is. The evildoer also started to calculate. That guy's name is Ji Yun. We met here. Lung Ruoxue replied simply. How could she have forgotten that the evildoer was even more jealous than her? Woo, I miscalculated. And then the demon squinted his eyes and asked indifferently. Lung Ruoxue could hear a trace of displeasure in his tone. There's nothing else. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but shrink her neck. She regretted starting this topic. Great. She had brought it upon herself. You really don't have any more? The evildoer was obviously not satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's answer. He gently bit her snow-white arm, leaving 2 rows of teeth marks on her smooth and tender skin before he let go in satisfaction. It hurts. Lung Ruoxue looked at him pitifully, the tears in her beautiful eyes threatening to fall. Then, she purposely said, You're such a bully. You didn't explain clearly about that strange woman and even bit me. I said she's just a passerby. There's nothing to explain. The demon started to tease Lung Ruoxue. To be honest, he quite liked it when Shue was jealous over such a small matter. At least, this showed that Shue cared about him. Even so, you still have to explain clearly how you got to know her. How dare you bring a strange woman with you? I think you're really... Lung Ruoxue's face was flushed red as she gritted her teeth. She didn't finish her sentence, but she knew that the evildoer knew what she wanted to say. At this moment, she was playing the role of a willful, unruly, and jealous girlfriend very well, and her performance also pleased the demon. The demon hugged Lung Ruoxue tightly and kissed her pouted pink lips without any hesitation. His chest was shaking from his smile. He was obviously very happy. Don't laugh. Lung Ruoxue cupped her devilishly beautiful face and warned him seriously. Good. No smile. I want laugh. The demon coaxed, but then he laughed even louder. Hee. Shue's current appearance was really too cute. He really couldn't get enough of looking at her. However, he was afraid that he would go too far in playing with fire, so he patiently explained Ji Min's existence to Lung Ruoxue. He did not want Shue to really take him seriously, and that would be bad. Chapter 1890. You're too unsympathetic one. Shue, I didn't keep that woman by my side. When I met her, she was already with Lu Tao and the others. Moreover, at that time, they were being besieged, and your maidservant was being bullied. So, I saved her in passing. The demon explained simply. Not only that, that woman even claimed that she was a friend of your 2 maidservants. Since she is their friend and has nothing to do with me, it wouldn't be good for me to drive her away, right? Actually, he really wanted to drive her away, but that woman acted normal in front of him and wasn't very enthusiastic about him. So he couldn't be too narcissistic, could he? However, after seeing Shue, it seemed that the woman couldn't hold back anymore. That woman clearly has feelings for you. Lung Ruoxue reminded, her beautiful face filled with displeasure. So what? In my eyes, she's just a passerby. Besides, if I say that she has never pestered me or expressed her love for me, would you believe me? The demon raised his eyebrows and asked. I do. That woman looks smart and not easy to deal with. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head. This was how a smart woman should behave. Those who drooled at the sight of a man were infatuated. When a smart woman pursued the man she liked, she would usually be calm and unmoved. Ha! No matter how smart she is, can she compare to my Shue? The demon smiled and tried to please him. There's no point in trying to please me. No matter what, this woman was brought back by you. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be displeased and pouted her pink lips. Seeing this, the demon's heart heated up, and he could not help but kiss her again. In. Lung Ruoxue was breathless from the demon's kiss. After a long time, she finally found a chance to breathe. She looked at the demon with slight displeasure and said, "Don't even think about getting away with it." This guy was really getting worse. "Swear, I didn't provoke that woman. It was Lu Tao and Sueju who provoked her. So, don't blame it on me. It's very unfair to me." His devilish black eyes stared unblinkingly at Lung Ruoxue. His eyes were filled with grievances. "You're the one who attracted the peach blossoms, and you're blaming others?" Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless, even though she knew that the evildoer was somewhat innocent in this matter. If it wasn't for his devastatingly beautiful appearance, why would those peach blossoms who had been mesmerized by his beauty come to her door one after another? Wasn't it enough to have a brain-dead girl who was infatuated with him? Now that a smart and scheming woman had come to her door, she didn't have to do anything in the long run. She just had to help the demon drive away these rotten peach flowers. "You're pretty good at attracting peach blossoms." Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the evildoer could not help but whisper. As long as he was not by Shui Er's side, she would be entangled by some man. Sob. It seemed like he would have to stay by Shui Er's side and protect her from now on, he decided in his heart. "What did you just say?" Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes as she spoke in an unfriendly tone. Damn evildoer, they were talking about his matters now, but he actually dragged her into it. Was this considered as him trying to drag her down with him? It's nothing. It was nothing. Shui it's getting late, can we rest? The evildoer said hurriedly. Right now, he didn't dare to mention anything about Ji Yun. Otherwise, Shui would definitely get angry with him. However, it didn't matter. There were still many days ahead. He would deal with that kid when he had the chance. "I haven't had a good night's sleep in these days," the demon added. After he finished speaking, he hugged Shui and lay down on the bed. After Lung Ruoxue fell asleep, the demon summoned Green Vessel. "What's the matter?" Qingju looked at the demon warily. Every time this guy came to find him alone, it was definitely not something good. However, he could not reject him. Sob. He was the most pitiful weapon spirit in the world. "What do you think? Didn't I tell you to help me look after Shui? Is this how you look at her?" The demon squinted his dazzling starry eyes and said with slight displeasure, "Those few guys are insignificant. They can't pose any threat to you." When Qingju heard this, he quickly explained. He knew that the evil man was planning to settle the score after this. This guy did not dare to ask his sister, but he did not have any concerns about him. He knew that if he dared to hide any information about any man, this evil man would not let him off. As long as he thought of the other party's terrifying torture methods, he could not help but shiver. Following that, Qingju explained the 8 generations of ancestors of the men in detail. Of course, he also mentioned Ji Yun. After all, among the men, this fellow was the only one who had impure thoughts towards his sister. Moreover, he was a black-hearted fellow who liked to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. If it were not for the fact that he did not dare to say some things, he would definitely tell this demon that Ji Yun and he were very similar in some ways. As for Zhou Kun, who had always wanted to challenge the demon, he only mentioned him briefly. Who asked that guy to not enter their eyes? "Only these," the demon said in dissatisfaction after hearing this. "Yes." Qingju quickly nodded and thought to himself, are these not enough? He had even told her about Zhou Kun's pregnancy. "Since you're done, you may leave." Seeing that Qingju had nothing else to explain, the demon directly ordered him to leave. Qingju's face turned red in anger. Damn it, this was killing the donkey when the grinding was done. It was wrong. How could he call himself a donkey? Anyway, this guy kicked him away after using him. He was so pitiful. Qingju reproached himself for a while, but he still had to leave with tears in his eyes. After Qingju left, the demon lay on the bed and recalled Qingju's words. Other than Ji Yun, there was actually someone else who wanted to challenge him. This person most likely knew that he had been a little bored recently, so he had deliberately sent himself to his door. In that case, if he didn't make good use of it, wouldn't he be wasting the other party's good intentions? After making up his mind, he decided to start with Zhou Kun first. After all, Zhou Kun was the least important person among the few of them. As for Ji Yun, he would slowly drive him out of Shui Er's sight. At this time, Zhou Kun still didn't know that he had been targeted. It wasn't until the next day, when Zhou Kun left the tent, that he discovered that there seemed to be a few strangers in the camp. He recognized one of the strangers. Ji Min, what are you doing here? After Zhou Kun saw Ji Min, he asked her in a bad mood. Who was the last person he wanted to see in such a situation? Naturally, it was Ji Min. After all, whether it was the grievances between the Ji and Zhou families or his previous feelings for Ji Min, it was enough to make him a big joke in Ji Min's eyes. Being seen by Ji Min in his current state was definitely a humiliation to him. You can be here, why can't I? Ji Min sneered after seeing Zhou Kun. Zhou Kun was a loss for words. Yeah, why can't Ji Min be here? How could he say this? Could he say that he regarded Ji Min as an enemy and naturally didn't want the enemy to see him now? However, it wasn't like the other members of the Ji family didn't know about his current situation. Zhou Kun was in a dilemma. Chapter 1891. You're too unsympathetic too. Do I need a reason if I can't? I hate you, do you understand? Seeing that Zhou Kun was being bullied, Meng Bao couldn't hold it in any longer. Zhou Kun, on the other hand, was touched to see that someone was speaking up for him. Do I have a grudge against you? Ji Min glanced at the strong woman who had spoken and asked indifferently. No grudges. Meng Bao answered readily. Then what right do you have to hate me? Ji Min said, somewhat unconvinced. First, she didn't kill this woman's entire family, and second, she didn't steal this woman's man. What right did this woman have to hate her? That's weird. Do you need a reason to hate someone? I just don't like the look of you, so what? Bite me. Meng Bao said shamelessly, but he couldn't help but snort in his heart. She hated all the women who dared to bully her little Kun. You really are an uncultured, savage woman. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Ji Min was so angry that her words trembled, and her beautiful face turned red with anger. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. You seem to be quite well-mannered, but you're too annoying. Meng Bao said with a look of disdain. However, he was thinking that Lung Ruoxue was more likable compared to this woman. She just didn't know if Lung Ruoxue would be moved to tears after knowing her thoughts. However, at this moment, Lung Ruoxue was preparing to come out of the tent. After hearing her words, she was already laughing in her heart. It seemed that the daughters of those families had to be dealt with by women like Meng Bao, who seemed crude but was actually meticulous. After all, Meng Bao did not look like a shrewd and meticulous woman. Therefore, no one would pick on her even if her words were rough. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue pulled the evildoer aside the tent's curtain and walked out. As soon as they stepped out of the tent, they heard a cry of joy. Brother Yi, you're out. Without a doubt, Ji Min was the one who was pleasantly surprised. As for Lung Ruoxue, she had automatically ignored her. When Lung Ruoxue heard this voice, she lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at the evildoer teasingly. Then the two of them walked towards them, hand in hand. Brother Yi. Just as Ji Min was about to step forward, she seemed to have accidentally seen Lung Ruoxue, who was beside the evildoer. She stopped in her tracks, awkwardly. At this time, Meng Bao's loud voice rang out again. Lung, who is this pretty boy? Your new love? Why hadn't he seen her before? However, this guy looks much stronger than that Ji Yun, but he's not my cup of tea. Meng Bao sized up the demon and asked nonchalantly like a machine gun. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines after hearing her series of questions, while the demon's face was completely black. As for Ji Yun, his face was alternating between green and white. He's my fiancé, Yechin. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly. Her hand remained calm as she appeased the evildoer. She knew Meng Bao's temper very well. He would say whatever he wanted and would never think about whether others would get angry after hearing what she said. In that guy's heart, there was no such thing as an unintentional speaker, but a meaningful listener. Otherwise, Meng Bao would not have called her the one with the surname Lung all the time. She couldn't do anything to Meng Bao, but she didn't have to worry about being schemed against when interacting with a straightforward person like him. This was also the main reason why she had always accommodated him. "I've long heard of your great name." Hearing this, Meng Bao cupped his hands in a manly manner and sized up the demon again with surprise. In her eyes, this guy was too weak. Could such a weak man give a woman happiness? She was very suspicious. At the thought of this, Meng Bao could not help but pull Lung Ruoxue to the side and asked in a low voice, "Lung, this man's body looks so thin and weak. Can he satisfy you?" She had no intention of probing into Lung Ruoxue's privacy. She was purely curious. After all, from her perspective, how could Lung Ruoxue have a blissful sex life when she was with such a man? When Lung Ruoxue heard these words, her cheeks started to heat up and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. She could not help but pray in her heart that these words could not be heard by the evildoer. Otherwise, that fellow would definitely kill her. After all, this was related to a man's dignity. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's troubled expression, Meng Bao completely misunderstood her. Following that, she said with a look of sympathy, "AI, as a woman, I can't understand the pain in your heart. Why don't you change to another man? There are plenty of good men in the world. This time, you should find a strong man. As for this kind of embroidered pillow with an empty appearance, you must not think about it again. After all, a woman's sexual happiness is the most important." Meng Bao's words were very sincere and earnest. The reason why she told Lung Ruoxue these things was mainly because Lung Ruoxue had kept her promise and did not snatch Zhou Kun from her. Otherwise, she would not have spoken so much. However, if Lung Ruoxue knew that this was the reason why Meng Bao was concerned about her sexual happiness, she would probably vomit blood from depression. What Meng Bao thought he had said carefully was heard by the demon. He narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "Can I satisfy Shui? How would you know if you don't try?" At this moment, he had crossed out this intrepid and strong-looking girl and put her on his blacklist. He had to make Shui or stay away from this girl in the future. Otherwise, his innocent and cute Shui would be led astray. Seeing the woman holding Shui Er's arm and chattering nonstop, the evildoer immediately released a chill. Instantly, the temperature dropped a lot. As for Ji Min, who had been staying beside the evildoer and trying to attract his attention, she was completely ignored. Not far away. Upon seeing this, Yu Chun whispered to Ji Yun, "Quickly pull your sister back. Don't let her do such a thankless thing. That man is not to be trifled with, and he's not someone she can dream of." As the saying goes, the onlooker sees more clearly. He could clearly see that the devilish man was getting impatient. If he were to lose his temper, he would naturally not vent it on his beloved woman. So who would be the first to bear the brunt? It was naturally self-evident. "You think I can control her? Ever since we were young, we've always wanted anything that caught her eye." Ji Yun spoke the truth. He had long seen through his sister's thoughts, but he had no intention of interfering. More importantly, he couldn't interfere in this matter. Moreover, Ji Min was different from him. If Ji Min had her eyes on something, she would definitely get it. As for him, as long as he could see Lung Ruoxue often and cook for her, he was already very satisfied. AI, she will regret it if she offends this man. Yu Chun sighed helplessly. He couldn't understand why some people in this world like to covet other people's things so much. Or was it really that good to snatch it? Whether she regrets it or not is her own choice. She can't blame anyone else. Ji Yun said coldly. Chapter 1892. You're too unsympathetic. 3. You really think so? Yu Chen's eyes widened as he asked in disbelief. He didn't expect that the carefree-looking Ji Yun could actually be so cold-blooded. If he remembered correctly, Ji Min should be his biological sister, right? What else can I do? Even if something happens to her, I want to take revenge for her. There are some people she can't afford to offend, but she still insists on flying like a moth to the flame. If there are any consequences, she can only bear it herself. Our family will not stand up for her. Ji Yun laughed coldly. It was time for this arrogant and haughty sister of hers to be taught a lesson. She didn't want her to always think that she was the most outstanding woman in the world. Little did she know that her thoughts were nothing more than a big joke in Ji Yun's heart. Big brother Yu, as the young master of the Yu family, you can't really be so soft-hearted, right? Or do you have any thoughts about me? If that's the case, then he'll make the decision to betroth her to you. Ji Yun said, half jokingly, half seriously. In fact, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that his idea was good. He didn't want his sister to cause trouble for the Ji family. I'm not interested in your sister. When Yu Chun heard this, he hurriedly replied and was so frightened that he quickly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He wasn't interested in Ji Min at all. If he had known about Ji Min before because of her reputation, then after seeing her in person, the little bit of curiosity he had about her disappeared. This woman was no different from any other woman. She was just as infatuated with him. In fact, she even had a bad habit of being self-righteous. It should be known that as a member of the family, this bad habit was the most unacceptable. Otherwise, it would bring a fatal disaster upon herself. And now, in his eyes, Ji Min was the typical representative of someone who had caused trouble but was still unaware of it. Not only that, but he also felt that the Ji family's education of Ji Min over the years was a complete failure because Ji Min simply didn't understand that she shouldn't have dreamed of something she was delusional about. It was no easy feat to dig her own grave. In his eyes, Ji Min was not even as cute as Meng Bao. At least, that woman was very real. She knew what he wanted and what was suitable for him. She was obviously Zhou Kun's nemesis. At the thought of these two people, he could not help but think of how good Meng Bao was to Zhou Kun. He could not help but chuckle softly. Seeing Yu Chun suddenly start to giggle, Ji Yunshu looked at him in confusion. Brother Yu, what's wrong with you? Brother Yu is really abnormal like this. He was so scared. Ha ha ha. I was just thinking about the time when Meng Bao and Zhou Kun were together. They were very loving, Yushu said with a smirk. The little resentment he had for Zhou Kun had long disappeared with the arrival of Meng Bao, because he knew very well that it would be a disaster for Zhou Kun to be tied to Meng Bao for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun could not refuse at all. Unfortunately, Meng Bao is going to build a harem, Ji Yun said, gloating over Zhou Kun's misfortune. He could also tell that Meng Bao seemed to be Zhou Kun's nemesis. He, who knew what Meng Bao was thinking, actually sympathized with Zhou Kun a little. This was because what Meng Bao was about to do now happened to be what Zhou Kun had done in the past. He wondered if this was considered retribution. It seemed that people really shouldn't do bad things. Well, she seems to like men like Zhou Kun. Do you think we should recommend a few to her? Yu Chen suddenly winked and said, That's a good idea. I think the one named Lu San is quite suitable for her. Besides, Lu San is much taller and stronger than Zhou Kun. Ji Yun suggested. Yu Chun, who had seen Lu San before, also nodded his head repeatedly. That guy was indeed Meng Bao's type. Just like that, the two of them started to conspire with tacit understanding. Lu San, who was far away, did not expect that he would be set up again. However, he kept sneezing. However, this was also his retribution. Who asked him to scheme against Ji Yun and the others first? People. He had to have the awareness of reaping what he sowed. Otherwise, he would only bring fire upon himself. Moreover, compared to him wanting Ji Yun and the others to die, it seemed that Ji Yun's idea was kind. Although Meng Bao's appearance was a little apologetic to the audience, he was a very meticulous and considerate woman. Ji Yun could tell from how she usually treated Zhou Kun. Therefore, she felt that her thoughts were very kind. On this side, Ji Yun and Yu Chun were discussing how to scheme against Lu Senator on the other side. Meng Bao was pulling Lung Ruoxue and talking nonstop. Suddenly, he cried out, "Ah!" Suddenly, a sound rang out. The few of them raised their heads in unison and looked in the direction of the sound. They happened to see Ji Min's pale face, her legs going soft, and falling in the direction of the evildoer. The people present were all smart monkeys, so it was naturally not difficult to see Ji Min's purpose. However, no one had expected that Ji Min would actually come up with such a clumsy method. However, no one could see that the demonic man would know how to show tenderness to women. Even Ji Tao and Ji Wu looked at Ji Min with disapproval. They didn't think that the demonic man would be so easy to scheme against. Fuck. This vixen, I've long seen that she's not a good person to actually think of your family's weak man. Lung, you can't let her go, or he'll look down on you. After witnessing this scene, Meng Bao immediately swore. His eyes were wide open, as if Ji Min was trying to take advantage of her man. In fact, she was feeling indignant for Lung Ruoxue. Don't worry, she'll suffer the consequences of her own actions. Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly, as she understood. If a demon could be so easily schemed against, he would not be the man she liked. Are you sure? In fact, I don't think men are good at dealing with this kind of thing. So, Meng Bao said like an emperor who was not in a hurry. However, before she could finish her sentence, the demonic man's figure flashed like the wind. Then, Ji Min, who was falling toward him, fell directly to the ground in an extremely indecent posture. She was the eldest young lady of the Ji family. She was famous for her nobility and elegance. But now, she had fallen to the ground like a dog eating shit. Her skirt was lifted up to her waist, revealing her long, white legs and her beautiful butt. Arg, it hurts. With a cry of pain, Ji Min raised her head slightly. At this time, everyone could clearly see that Ji Min had fallen more miserably than they had imagined. At this time, Ji Min's beautiful clothes that touched the ground had been torn, revealing half of her snow-white jade peaks. Her high nose bridge was also broken by the impact because she directly touched the ground. Her originally beautiful diamond-shaped pink lips were swollen like two sausages and covered with mud. The skin on her face was also damaged in many places. Blood flowed directly from the wound and quickly soaked her entire face. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Ji Min was a ghost now. After Ji Min fell down, she endured the pain on her face and elbow and got up from the ground. But at this moment, she couldn't help but feel hatred in her heart. Damn it, no one came to help her when she fell. This was preposterous. At this time, she knew how to blame others for not coming to help her. However, why didn't she think about it? When she fell, she didn't expect anyone to help her at all. Her goal was completely on the evildoer. Unfortunately, he didn't care about her life or death. This was a fact that she did not want to touch. At the thought of this, Ji Min's resentful eyes unconsciously drifted to the evildoer, and she said with an aggrieved face, "Brothery," who knew that just as she opened her mouth to speak, her teeth fell to the ground with a clatter. Instantly, everyone was once again stunned. Ji Min was also completely dumbfounded. What was going on? She had never heard of someone who fell and knocked out all his teeth. How was Ji Min going to face others in the future? One had to know that things like teeth could not grow back just by eating healing medicinal pills. And if a woman, especially a beautiful woman with a well-known reputation, did not have teeth, how terrifying would that be? After Ji Min's teeth were knocked out, her lips, apart from the two sausages, were immediately deflated. She suddenly became a lot uglier. Seeing this, Ji Tao and Ji Wu both lowered their heads in unison, not daring to look at Ji Min at all. It was not difficult for them to imagine how angry Ji Min was at this moment. However, they had overestimated Ji Min's ability to endure. At this moment, she had completely fallen into a dazed state. So how could she still care about losing her temper? Seeing Ji Min's miserable state, Meng Bao laughed heartlessly. Her gloating laughter immediately attracted everyone's attention. Receiving everyone's attention, Meng Bao was embarrassed, which was rare. Why are you all looking at me? Meng Bao whispered in embarrassment. At this time, shouldn't they be looking at the miserable state of the vixen who tried to seduce other people's men? Why was he looking at her instead? This made her a little at a loss. "You're too unsympathetic," Yu Shu said with a faint smile. In fact, he also wanted to laugh unscrupulously like Meng Bao, but unfortunately, his status did not allow him to be so casual. Chapter 1893. Two-pronged approach. 1. Sympathy? Why should I have sympathy? Even if I'm full of sympathy, I can't just give it to a vixen who wants to seduce someone else's man. Hee hee. It's already good enough that I didn't hit her when she's down, and she still wants me to pity her? In my opinion, she asked for it. She deserved it. Meng Bao was slightly stunned. Then, he snorted disdainfully. Her words were not polite at all. When they heard this, Ji Yun and the other two felt their faces burning. They did not dare to defend Ji Min, while Yu Chen's smile became even more profound. At this time, Ji Min also came back to her senses and heard Meng Bao's words. Suddenly, Ji Min disregarded her image and roared in anger. What an ugly monster! What did it say? I dare you to say that again. I'm sorry, I don't have the guts. Meng Bao said in an infuriating manner. Only men have balls. How could she? Ji Min was so angry that her whole body was trembling. In addition, she had almost lost all her teeth, so she couldn't speak clearly. However, her current image was completely different from her reputation. Moreover, the people present believed that after this incident, Ji Min's reputation would not be as good as before. As for how bad it would be, they did not dare to guess, but it would definitely not be good. Sister, you're already in this state, so it's better for you to speak less. Ji Yun couldn't bear to watch any longer and couldn't help but ask, Is he still my little brother? I'm being bullied, and you're just standing by? After hearing Ji Yun's words, Ji Min, who had nowhere to vent her anger, immediately directed the spearhead at Ji Yun. In any case, she was certain that her younger brother would not disrespect her in front of others. You were bullied? Ji Yun narrowed his eyes, his face filled with confusion as he repeated himself. Then, he said, Who bullied you? Ji Min was so angry that she almost vomited blood at Ji Yun's act of playing dumb. Damn it. Ji Yun clearly didn't want to interfere in her business. This won't do. She was Ji Yun's older sister and the eldest daughter of the Ji family. Therefore, she had to get back at him today. She didn't want to touch Lung Ruoxue for the time being, so as not to leave a bad impression on Yi Chun. She couldn't afford to offend Yu Chen either. Therefore, after thinking about it, Ji Min felt that Zhou Kun and that ugly woman should be her punching bags and allow her to vent her anger. Otherwise, where would she put her face as the eldest daughter of the Ji family? At the thought of this, Ji Min stretched out her hand and pointed at Zhou Kun and Meng Bao, making them her targets. By them, Ji Min said with a slightly aggrieved tone, her beautiful eyes still misty. Zhou Kun, who had been targeted even without doing anything, was immediately depressed. Damn it, he didn't even say anything, okay? How could he be wrongly accused? Under the watchful eyes of the public, how could this damned woman have the nerve to accuse her? Zhou Kun couldn't figure it out. Was that person really the noble eldest daughter of the Ji family? Now, no matter how he looked at Ji Min, she was not pleasing to the eye. I didn't say anything, okay? Zhou Kun reminded him with a slightly aggrieved expression. This was the first time he had watched a show so obediently in his life. However, he was still shot in the head, even though he did that. Was there still justice in this world? At this moment, Zhou Kun finally experienced the feeling of being wronged. Although she didn't say anything, her expression can't be hidden from me. Ji Min roared in anger. What was her image? She had completely forgotten about it in her extreme anger. This works too? Miss Ji, I realize that I've only truly gotten to know you today. Thank you for opening my eyes. Zhou Kun cupped his fists and said with a look of admiration on his face. How could he not admire her? Ji Min's ability to lie through her teeth had already reached the peak. What do you mean by that? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Ji Min became even more furious. However, Zhou Kun laughed without saying a word. Hee, what else could it mean? I'm saying that you're a hypocrite. Meng Bao interjected. In fact, it was not a big deal for the heiresses of those families to be inconsistent. Inside, Ji Min was so angry that her eyes were bloodshot and her face was ferocious. Coupled with her shriveled sausage mouth, her current appearance was really as terrifying as it could get. Arg, a ghost. It's really too ugly. Upon seeing this, Meng Bao cried out exaggeratedly and hid behind Lung Ruoxue to seek protection. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue smiled helplessly and said to Ji Min, Miss Ji, If you want to continue throwing a tantrum, no one will stop you. However, I think you better take care of your injuries first. You look quite scary now. Besides, everything we do here can be seen by the people outside. I'm afraid that many people will be surprised by your current appearance. So, you have to take care of yourself. After hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, Ji-min instantly calmed down. Then, she took out a healing pill and ate it. In an instant, the injuries on her face and arms were healed, but her teeth could not grow back. That was why her lips were sunken. When she thought of this fact, the flame burning in Ji-min's chest grew stronger and stronger, until it became a sea of fire. However, she had already calmed down and knew that her performance just now could very likely destroy her many years of business in one day. Therefore, she did not dare to act rashly. However, what should she do with her teeth? Without teeth, not only would there be gaps in her speech, but it was also unsightly. Therefore, Ji-min's hair was almost white. In fact, if she was still a high-level deity, she would not be afraid of any injuries to her body. This was because when a high-level deity advanced to become a deity, she would have a chance to repair her bodhi's defects. However, she had already passed through that stage. Therefore, she naturally did not have that opportunity. Her teeth were also part of the body that could not be regrown. Therefore, if there was no good way to repair her teeth, then her life would really be ruined. One might ask, which family would want a head lady who had lost all her teeth? How did this happen? Ji-min couldn't understand. She had clearly calculated it well, but there was a deviation. It was fine that Yi-chan did not catch her tenderly, but how did she fall to the ground? And it fell so badly? How was she going to face others in the future? Now, everyone in the immortal realm probably knows about this matter. Sob, Ji-min only needed to think about it to feel terrified. Moreover, she had lost her composure just now. Now, the perfect image that she had maintained for so many years was gone forever. She was filled with regret. She had always been calm, but when she saw Yi-chun and Lung Ruoxue standing together, she could not control the jealousy in her heart. Otherwise, with her cautious nature, she would not have done something so abnormal. Yes, she had blamed her behavior for being abnormal. This was definitely not her intention, Ji-min thought. At the same time, she had also viewed Lung Ruoxue as her #1 enemy. However, this enemy was rather cunning, and she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to defeat her with just a few tricks. Hence, Ji-min's attitude towards Lung Ruoxue had become even more cautious. Chapter 1894, Two-Pronged Approach 2. I'm sorry. I lost my composure just now. Please forgive me. After some consideration, Ji-min changed her previous attitude and became humble and polite. Meng Bao was speechless at the speed of her change in attitude. Meng Bao gently poked Lung Ruoxu's arm and whispered to her in a voice that everyone could hear, "Wow, this woman can change her face." They were still glaring at us just now, but in the blink of an eye, they're all over again. It's really magical. Isn't face changing a compulsory course for all the daughters of noble families? Don't tell me you haven't learned it? Lung Ruoxu asked indifferently. I really haven't learned it. Meng Bao deliberately laughed in embarrassment, which was rare to see on his face. Then you should learn it. Don't say anything, you'll offend people. Lung Ruoxu reminded him indifferently. If they offended some despicable people, they would not even know how they died. Why do you want to learn that? It's tiring to change faces. I'm not interested. Meng Bao said disapprovingly. This is called, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Lung Ruoxu sighed helplessly. Hee, then it'll be different. Meng Bao said after thinking for a while. You're already different enough. Lung Ruoxu rolled her eyes in her heart. Hee, I think so too. Meng Bao boasted shamelessly. At this moment, she was no longer embarrassed. Just like that, the two of them whispered one after another, completely ignoring Ji-min. The others also ignored Ji-min. For a time, Ji-min stood in place like a fool, and the anger in her heart multiplied. Damn it! She had already lowered her voice and tried to fix the conflict, but no one gave her reaction. This made her feel very embarrassed. Thinking of this, Ji Min suddenly said. Are you guys not willing to forgive me? It was all my fault just now. I wasn't calm enough. I'm sorry. After saying that, she looked at Meng Bao guiltily. After all, she was mainly targeting Meng Bao and Zhou Kun just now. Hearing Ji Min's words, Meng Bao's eyes instantly widened, and he looked at her in horror. Oh my God, this woman was really terrifying. She was actually so flexible. She still remembered her mother's words that this kind of woman was the scariest. Therefore, at this moment, Meng Bao made up his mind to stay far away from this woman in the future, in case he didn't even know that he had been set up by her. As for Ji Min's attitude towards him just now, she didn't argue with this woman on account of how terrifying she was. The main thing was that she was afraid that she couldn't set Ji Min up. After all, conspiracies and schemes were always open. She knew nothing about it. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she watched Ji Min transform from a vicious wolf into a little white flower. She felt speechless. With this woman's acting skills, it would be a pity if she didn't become an actress. However, this woman still had some brains. It was not bad to have such an opponent. Otherwise, wouldn't life be boring? As she thought of this, Lung Ruoxue's attitude towards Ji Min became more amiable. She smiled at Ji Min and said, Don't worry, Missy Ji. We don't blame you at all. We were also shocked by what happened just now, so we haven't come back to our senses yet. Besides, we all sympathize with you, so we don't mind your attitude. Don't worry. Lung Ruoxue's words confused everyone present. Although Ji Min had only targeted Meng Bao and Zhou Kun, based on their understanding of Lung Ruoxue, she should not have taken the initiative to interfere in this matter. Although they could all see that Ji Min wanted to hit on that devilish man, she didn't succeed, did she? Hence, they could not guess Lung Ruoxue's motive for being so concerned about her love rival. Meng Bao's reaction was even more direct. She stretched out a hand and placed it on Lung Ruoxue's forehead. Then, she muttered to herself, You don't have a fever. How could it be? Meng Bao could not figure it out. At the very least, from the time she had spent with Lung Ruoxue, she clearly knew that this woman was not an easy person to get along with. Even though she did not use her brain when she spoke or did things, her instincts were extremely sharp. Hence, she believed that she understood Lung Ruoxue more or less. She was extremely puzzled by Lung Ruoxue's actions of consoling that vixen. After all, that damned woman was the man who had taken a fancy to Lung Ruoxue. Of course I don't have a fever. Lung Ruoxue was speechless at Meng Bao's performance. She was just showing off her acting skills. Did these people have to react like this? Even Ji Yun was looking at her with a face full of fear, as if she had been replaced. This fact made her feel rather helpless. However, it was a good thing that the demon understood her. Lung Ruoxue gave the evildoer a praising look, because she was very clear that the reason why Ji Min had fallen so miserably earlier was because of this fellow's manipulation. However, she was not a kind-hearted person, so she naturally would not pity Ji Min. How could she not pay the price for coveting her man? At this moment, the evildoer had walked to Lung Ruoxue's side and saved her from Leopard Meng's demonic grasp. At the same time, he gave Leopard Meng a sharp look. He must be tired of living to be hugging his woman. Meng Bao, who had sensed the meaning of the devilish look, was so frightened by it that her heart trembled. Woo! This man's aura is really too powerful and too terrifying. With just a glance, her little heart began to tremble. Of course, this was not because she was moved, but because she was scared. After giving Meng Bao a warning, the demon hugged Lung Ruoxue and found a corner to sit down. At this moment, Lu Tao and Cui Zhu also served the food they had prepared. He didn't expect it to be so shocking so early in the morning. Chapter 1895. Two-Pronged Approach 3. What did he say? Ji Tao was determined to play dumb to the end. I say, what are they trying to do by entering the tent in broad daylight? Ji Min repeated. Oh, I don't know. Ji Tao blinked his eyes and said with an innocent face. However, he couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. Did he look like he was easy to bully? Why did Jimin always make him the first target? This made him very depressed. What about you guys? What do you guys think? When Jimin saw that she couldn't get anything out of Ji-Tao, she couldn't help but feel a little angry, so she simply turned the topic to everyone present. May I know what identity and position you're in to question us, Miss Ji? Yu Chun, who had originally planned to remain silent, opened his mouth. Yup, who do you think you are? Do we have to answer just because you asked? Meng Bao was even more direct and did not give Ji Min any face. I was just a little curious and wanted to discuss it with you. Ji Min's face was red as she suppressed the anger in her heart and said with some embarrassment, Curious? Hee hee. You just need to pull a man into the tent and you'll know what they're going to do, right? Meng Bao said with a wretched expression. He even winked at Ji Min ambiguously, making her feel both embarrassed and angry. How could you be so? Ji Min stammered again. In fact, she wanted to say something so obscene, but she deliberately did not finish the sentence to give everyone some space to think. Is he so perverted and obscene? Hee. This is called the truth. Unlike some people who are obviously dirty in their hearts, but pretend to be noble and generous. Who are you pretending for? Meng Bao pointed at the mulberry and scolded the locust, his face full of disdain. Jimin was so angry that she couldn't say anything. In the face of such a vulgar woman like Meng Bao, her previous means were completely useless. This made her feel like she was playing the zither against a cow. On the other hand, Meng Bao did not care about Ji Min's reaction and attitude at all. He walked straight to Zhou Kun's side and hugged him in his arms. Go, little Kunkin, let's go into the tent and have some alone time with each other. Don't be with a female beast in heat, or else I'm afraid you'll lose your innocence. Upon hearing Meng Bao's words, Zhou Kun rolled his eyes continuously and thought to himself, Aren't you the female beast in heat? However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, this tigress would not let him go. In a situation where he couldn't defeat his opponent in martial arts, he could only compromise and let the tigress do whatever she wanted. He was really too pitiful. Zhou Kun, who was secretly upset, was carried into the tent by Meng Bao under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Yu Chun and the others were already used to it, but Ji Min widened her eyes as if she had seen a monster and said with a look of disbelief, They. Unfortunately, there was no one to clear her doubts. After Lung Ruoxue and the others returned to the tent, Lu Tao and the rest did not stay any longer. They did not even greet Ji Min and directly entered the tent. Ji Min looked at the gradually decreasing number of people and widened her eyes in disbelief. Just as Ji Yin was about to return to his tent to be alone, he was stopped by Ji Min Xiaoyan. I have something to discuss with you, Ji Min hurriedly said. When she saw the obvious impatience on Ji Yun's face, Ji Min went crazy. When had she become so unpopular? In the past, even if Ji Yun didn't like her, he wouldn't show it on his face. But now, the way Ji Yun looked at her was as if she was a pile of shit. This was something she couldn't accept. I have nothing to say to you, Ji Yun said indifferently. He didn't even look at Ji Min as he walked around her and prepared to return to his tent. Upon seeing this, Ji Min thickened her skin and followed him in. Then, she looked at Ji Yun with a serious expression. This is very important. It concerns our future. Oh, since that's the case, then tell me. Ji Yun said with a smile that was not a smile. He wanted to hear what Ji Min intended to tell him. You like that Miss Lung a lot, don't you? Ji Min went straight to the point. So what if I like him? So what if you don't like it? Ji Yun didn't answer directly, but Ji Min took his reaction as a silent admission. After all, she thought she understood her brother very well. Moreover, the affectionate gaze that Ji Yun used to look at Lung Ruoxue didn't escape her eyes. If you like her, you should take the initiative to fight for her. Otherwise, she will belong to someone else, Ji Min said in a somewhat resentful tone. Her impression of Ji Yun had always been that he was willful and reckless. Therefore, Ji Yun's current reaction made her very uncomfortable. She already has a fiancé, Ji Yun reminded with a faint smile. So what? As long as you like her, you should snatch her away, shouldn't you? You are the young master of the Ji family. Don't tell me you're not worthy of her? Ji Min tempted. She couldn't help but think that if Ji Yun was willing to cooperate with her and the two of them attacked them at the same time, she believed that it wouldn't take long for them to get what they wanted. Unfortunately, would things really turn out as she thought? He'll snatch Ruoxue over, and then that evil man will be yours, right? Ji Yun said in understanding. In his heart, he despised Ji Min's whimsical thoughts. What blind fool. She was completely blinded by beauty. Could it be that she didn't see that whether it was Lung Ruoxue or that demonic man, there were not people who could be manipulated by others? Although he did have some thoughts about Ruoxue, he had never thought of forcing her. However, this sister's thoughts could very likely bring disaster to the Ji family. Hence, he had to be on guard. Isn't this a happy ending? Having been seen through by Ji Yun, Ji Min no longer hid anything and directly admitted it. It's a win-win situation, but do you think it's feasible? Ji Yun wasn't optimistic about Ji Min's thoughts. Of course, this is my decision after much consideration. As long as we join forces, I don't believe that they can escape from our hands. Ji Min said confidently. Sister, it's good to be confident, but I think you should find a way to repair your teeth first. Otherwise, with your current appearance, I'm afraid no man can get you easily. Ji Yun kindly reminded. I have my own plans for this. Ji Min's face immediately sank when she heard Ji Yun mention her teeth. She spoke in an unpleasant tone. You just have to find a way to keep that woman busy, she said. Leave Brother Yi to me. All right, Ji Yun nodded. He wanted to see what this self-righteous sister of his would do. Xiaoyun, as long as you cooperate with me, we'll definitely get what we want. Ji Min worriedly warned. No problem. Just tell me what you want to do. We'll find a way to cooperate with you. Ji Yun agreed, but in his heart, he wanted to watch a good show. After all, he didn't think that his sister, Ji Min, would have a chance to succeed. Then, I wish us a happy cooperation, Ji Min said with satisfaction. At this moment, her entire body and mind were filled with excitement. She simply didn't think about why her younger brother, who loved to oppose her the most, would agree so readily. However, even if she thought about it, she would probably think that this was the charm of love. After Ji Min got her wish, she left Ji Yun's tent without looking back. Not long after she left, Yu Chun came again. Brother Yu, did you make an appointment with my sister? The two of them actually had such a tacit understanding and came to find me one after another. Ji Yun laughed as he teased. Don't talk nonsense. I saw that she was looking for you, so I came to take a look. Yu Chun explained. Then, he turned to Ji Yun and said, Ji Yun, although we haven't known each other for a long time, I've always treated you as my younger brother and Ruoxue as my younger sister. So, I don't want you to ruin the hard-won friendship between us because of a single mistake. Do you understand? Yu Chen's words weren't without reason. After Ji Min looked for Ji Yun, he had already guessed some things. However, he couldn't say it out loud. After all, he might have been overthinking it. However, he was older than Ji Yun, so it was fine to give him a reminder. There was nothing wrong with this. He could just take it as a rainy day plan. Who asked one of the siblings to like little sister Ruoxue and the other to be interested in her fiancé? AI, what an ill-fated relationship. Don't worry, brother Yu. I know what I'm doing. I won't do anything rash. Ji Yun nodded. In his heart, he was very grateful to Yu Chun. After all, Yu Shu was willing to say these words to him. It was enough to show that Yu Chun did not treat him as an outsider and was sincere to him. Otherwise, he would not care about his life or death. That's good. That sister of yours, Sai. Yu Chun sighed at the mention of Ji Min. That woman really made him speechless. She won't turn back until she's badly injured. Ji Yun understood. In fact, if a bloody head could make Ji Min turn back, that would still be good. He was afraid that Ji Min would be stubborn and wouldn't give up until she achieved her goal. If that happened, it would definitely be a great disaster for the Ji family. When he heard Ji Yun's words, Yu Chun nodded in agreement and secretly decided to keep an eye on Ji Min within his capabilities so that she would not cause trouble for Sister Ruoxue. For the next few days, Ji Min kept a very low profile. She did not even look at evildoer in the eye. When she saw the two of them, she would only greet Lung Ruoxue as if evildoer was air and did not exist. Such a Ji-min made Lung Ruoxue feel that she was a stranger. Looking at Ji-min, who was trying her best to get close to her and please her every day, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but feel a sense of wariness. Although she didn't know what Ji-min was up to, it was always better to be safe than sorry. At the same time, the demon took the initiative to look for Zhou Kun. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.